He's so bad at predicting. This is the second video that I've watched from him, and he tries to do this thing where he's like, I know what Hutch is gonna say before he even says it. I got this guy figured out. I'm on to his ruse. And he does these predictions, and they're always wrong. Like, they're literally always wrong. I've not heard him predict a single thing correctly.
Blue no matter who is them trying to break you into following whatever they want. But at the same time, you should vote for Democrats over Republicans, especially until the Republican Party has some major schism or change.
Congratulations, my good sir. You have just stumbled upon the exceedingly simple logic of blue no matter who. That's why we say blue no matter who, because the Republicans are genuinely that fucking bad.
I'm telling you, if El Sayed were to win in Michigan, you can fully expect Michigan Democrats to endorse the Republican candidate.
Okay, all right. When has this ever happened? Why would we fully expect it? Okay, Hutch exposed. The Hasan Piker lie is absurd. And then on the thumbnail, it says he's wrecked with text that says gaslighting question mark.
Actually,
it's so much. It's so over the top. The commentary is so over the top, you guys. You would think that I'm like a full-on like Trump supporter. You're not. It's pronounced Jew stalker. I'm still convinced that you guys are like trolling me with that, and that wasn't his actual name. Because there's no way that was like his actual name, right? Like Jew stalker. There's no fucking way, right?
What did we blame for Kamala's loss? Was it Kamala?
We don't rewrite.
Totally. Oh my God. Hutch is destroyed. This is when you catch your like 4-year-old brother with his hand in the cookie jar.
That's cool. Oh, are you joking?
Oh. Honestly, Hutch's gaslighting is so counterproductive on every level.
True. I'm often told this.
I think they've struck pay dirt with Hasan on the right, and I think they're going to double down and keep.
I think it's very funny watching, dude, it's super funny to me watching both Pisco and Soy Pill. The thing that terrifies them most in this entire world is being accused of having one iota of sympathy for Hasan. I don't even like Hasan. Excuse me, I don't even, have I not criticized Hasan? Yes or no, have I criticized Hasan? I don't even like Hasan. Why would you suggest that I might like Hasan? Why would you? That's like the thing that haunts them at night, okay? For other people, it's like regular concerns. For these two, it's like, oh my God, some level of association to Hasan? That's terrifying.
I just think they genuinely don't like Hasan, is my read. I think they're being earnest when they say they don't like Hasan.
Oh my God. It's bro, and IRI and Hutch are totally fine to run their like little narrative. And I do think it comes out a certain way. And I'm not saying you say Hasan's, a perfect liberal who loves democracy. You don't have to say that. I don't believe that. You shouldn't believe that. That's not, he is literally okay with like a post-liberal democracy. In fact, I believe he said it's his ideal would be a post-liberal democracy. I do think it's a little crazy.
I don't think he said that, did he? Did he say that? The system that he described, Hasan, his ideal system is definitely not democratic, not in the purest sense. How could it be democratic if you would not allow a capitalist political party to grow? Aha, thank you so much for $10. Thank you for the content, Streamer Man. Hey, thank you for the donation, buddy.
That they're like, they're a little worried about doing any defense. They're a little concerned. Eventually that'll break. Eventually, I know Pisco will break. I don't know about Soy Pill, but Pisco will break. Pisco won't be able to like listen to bad arguments for very long. He'll like kind of lose it. So we'll see what happens.
Flames. I wouldn't be surprised if foreign actors get involved, and even the right makes up stories about Hasan in order to keep that going. Because anything that causes division on our side is great. So they love it.
Well, he's got a lot riding on this election cycle because Hasan's putting himself out there in a way that he hasn't in the past. Like he's made tremendous efforts to raise his national profile, raise his name recognition, and become personally involved in political races. I mean, he was before.
Which is good or bad, Hutch? Which is good or bad?
It's neutral. It's not meant to be. I'm not assigning a value to it. I'm just accurately describing what he's doing.
Because I feel like we gotta be consistent, all right? Because I know for a fact Hutch would be talking all kinds of shit about how Hasan stays home. Hasan doesn't do anything. Hasan's totally.
When have I ever said this?
Performed, right? Is it good or bad that he's like trying to actually get involved?
But not to this extent. Depends on who you talk to. That's entirely subjective, but it's just a neutral statement. He is trying to be more influential in Democratic Party politics. And, you know, we can have a debate about it, whether or not that's good or bad, but that is what he's doing.
And so he is.
I mean, on one level, I do respect it. Like, unironically, I do respect that he's out there, you know, actually trying to influence things. I ultimately think he will be unsuccessful because he's just so, he does stuff like that fucking New York Times interview from a couple days ago. So I just don't know how much mainstream success someone like him can have. Him appearing with a politician or a candidate for some kind of a seat might benefit, you know, somebody sitting in or going for a seat in one district and be really bad for somebody going for another district. And so there's going to be some times where his appearances help the candidates for sure. But I just do think there's like a natural cap on how much influence he can have. And I think he puts that cap on himself, but he doesn't see it as a cap because I think he thinks that his views are already mainstream. It's just like people don't know it. Like people agree with him, but they just don't know it yet. But I don't think that's true, but we'll find out.
Obviously trying to occupy a lane within Democratic Party politics that has actual real influence. And so the first thing to look for would be like if Syed would have dropped in the polls.
You literally said last week that you acknowledged Hasan's work ethic. Yeah, it's like, even if you don't like Hasan, his work ethic is crazy. That guy just doesn't stop. I'm not built for that. I can't do 7 days a week, fucking 8-hour streams. I'm not that social. I need more downtime, but his work ethic is crazy.
After all that coverage, but he went up like 7 points or something like that. So at least during these primaries, I don't think Hasan's going anywhere. But if we get to the general and, you know, we get past these primaries and most or most of the candidates that he's supporting, you know, get whooped, then that drops his stock quite a bit. And he's going to get less phone calls. But if his candidates do well, then we're going to see more of them in the years to come. So
what would you like to? I see. This is like setting up a pre-framing. Okay.
Sometimes I'm just making uncontroversial statements. It's like he seems to, every time I open my mouth, he seems to want to find the most sinister underlying thing. Have you guys noticed this? And sometimes the thing that I'm saying is not really remarkable. It's just establishing a framework of shared understanding of what is happening. And then we can dive into like whether or not we think that's good or bad, but sometimes I really am making just neutral statements, but it's like every time I open my mouth, he's just looking for some kind of like deception, subterfuge, insincerity, you know, inauthenticity or whatever.
No, I'll always reject this. And I'm not saying this because I'll be honest, I don't particularly think that a lot of the socialist candidates, to me, I feel like the conversation should be had, but I'm looking at a different conversation that should be had. I want like a meta discussion on the concept of liberal democracy and whether it's capable of acting quickly enough, of being agile enough to deal with modern concerns. I want that conversation to be had more and more and more, and anything I could talk about that lets me hammer that point home, that I do not think the current liberal, the general framework of the liberal democracy right now is effective in the world moving this fast, corporations moving this fast, okay? I need that conversation to be had. And right now we're seeing people who are basically arguing for a form of that. And I want them to do better because I think that's an important conversation.
So is JSTLK, does anyone know his politics? So what is JSTLK? What kind of system does he want? Does he want authoritarian leftist government? Does he want dictatorship? Does he want something more technocratic? Like, is he a tanky? The thing is, when we're evaluating the merits of liberal democracy in the modern era, we've already tried, like I say, like as a species, we've already tried a lot of other kinds of systems. And so far, liberal democracy is the best system, I would say by far. If you want to maximize individual liberty, prosperity, and democratic principles, where you have like the people themselves determining what kind of government you have, there's been no other system quite like it throughout the span of human history. It's unquestionably led to the best outcomes. So is he trying to go back to a system that another country has already tried that he thinks would be better? His politics endlessly critiquing power with no real strategy to gain it. What kind of American are you? He doesn't think liberal democracy can deal with the challenges of misinformation and automation. He doesn't really have prescriptions. Well, listen, JSTLK, if you're watching this in the future, this is Hutch from the past. And I want to know, what is your prescription? Like, what kind of system do you think we should be going for? Because it's not enough to just have a conversation questioning liberal democracy. He's saying that he wants there to be a meta discussion about, like, can liberal democracy really keep up with how rapidly technology is evolving and automation and da 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 da. Like, well, what are you suggesting? He was a Canadian conservative before he got embroiled in the Destiny drama. I have no idea where he is now. He doesn't have political conviction. You're just being too generous by thinking he cares. Well, let's challenge him to be better. Let's challenge him to evolve. JSTLK, if you're watching this in the future, okay, this is me from the past. This is me from 9:27 a.m. on April 24th. It's not enough to just talk endlessly about problems. You need to be able to have some kind of a sense of what kind of solutions you think would be best. And so I want to know, what are your solutions? Okay. I think that's a fair question to ask. And I know my chat wants to know too, because they're all curious and they're all saying very nice things about you in my chat right now. There's no evolving. It's literally just another vector for them to attack Destiny. What the fuck makes you think he wants to be better? Maybe better for him is the size of his bank account. Listen, I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to be better in our own way. He's on his path, okay? He's on his path. Who are you to say what point in his path he should be? He's just going to say cut off Israel. No, I'm serious. Does he literally not have, I think maybe you guys are being too mean to him. There's no way he has never stated any kind of preference for what sort of system we should have. Surely he's not over here saying, I'm just asking questions and just like leaving it there.
To have, okay? I want people who are basically saying the status quo is not good enough. This managed decline is not good enough. I will support those people. And it's not accelerationism. It's, hey, I don't want accelerationism. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there is some tweak needs to be made. We need to start having this meta discussion, right? On what tweaks need to be made so that decisions can be made faster, so that we
what tweaks do you want to make?
Have some hope of preventing the fall off of the cliff I think is coming. I'm not even going to say that I think Hasan, this is, by the way, I'm super far. I've done like 2 sort of leaps here, but I'm not
even saying that the current liberal like structure of the economy and government is something that can be maintained or should be maintained forever, because I don't know what it means. I don't know what the economy or markets, like, I don't know what these concepts mean if we get to a point where we can automate literally 90% of the current labor market. I don't know what that looks like. What does capitalism mean? What does supply and demand mean? Like what do wages mean? What does work mean? What if we can get to a place where 90% of things are automated? I don't know what that looks like. It's going to look very different from what we got going on right now. But I don't know what that means. I have no idea. What does that mean for government if we can do something like that? Ironically, I think AI can bring about their communist utopia. Or I shouldn't say AI, but like automation. Ironically, I think like full automation will get them closer to their communist utopia than doing this LARPy revolutionary bullshit, which I don't know if he's doing that.
I'm not even going to tell you that I want Hasan to like win or his candidates to win. In fact, I think they will largely lose. And the framing Hutch is setting up is, well, if they do really badly, that shows that there's no appetite for this. That is not true. Okay? That is not true. Do not let them gaslight you on this. It's
kind of necessarily true. It doesn't mean that there will never be an appetite for it in the future. But in the short term, if his candidates get blown out throughout this cycle, it means that there's not an appetite for his kind of politics right now. That is kind of necessarily true.
No indication that if you lose badly in any of these elections, okay, look at the spending. Look at the ad buys that are going to go into these elections to prevent these primary candidates from being successful, because they are terrified of this kind of narrative. They're totally terrified.
Do we have Vishy or Dasvidanya in the chat? You'll have high profile races that attract a lot of donors. That's true. A lot of money gets spent in these primary contests to stop progressive candidates from winning. But the norm is just, most races are not attracting like high level amounts of donors. And so it's just the case that quietly all over the country, progressive candidates are getting like really blown out. in races that are just happening that don't have a lot of national attention. There's not a lot of like ad spending. So the idea that you can find high profile races where a lot of money is being spent to boost the, you know, non-progressive candidate in the primaries, that's not evidence that people are horrified of like some big takeover.
So even if you lose badly in some places because a candidate gets totally swamped, gets totally outspent, all right, and and they don't win.
He's doing the thing. He's doing the thing.
And don't get discouraged. That is not an indication that your politics isn't working. The indication that your politics is working is a flood of money against you. That's the indication. That's your primary indicator, your North Star. The more money they're spending against you in terms of primaries, that is showing that you are resonating with people, and it scares them. It terrifies them. They're spending more and more and more money to try to make up that gap that they can't do with rhetoric. Okay? So never let people tell you that the whole reason that you're like, oh, that this is the litmus test right now, or sorry, that this is the test. This will tell us. This is the experiment, and we'll know after this. No, you won't know after this. You won't.
It would be scary if people were spending tremendous amounts, like donors were spending tremendous amounts of money in races all over the country. Then it would be kind of scary. If your perspective is that the current progressive wing of the Democratic Party are not to be trusted, and if we give them power, it would lead to bad outcomes. If you're afraid of them in that kind of way, then the only time you're going to be afraid is if you're forced to spend a lot of money in really competitive districts.
All right. This is years long. This is a years long thing. This is not this cycle. This is not these midterms. It's not even the next presidential election. Don't stop. Don't get discouraged. All right. So that's how I feel about that. I don't like the idea that this is like a one-time
I
thing.
feel inspired.
It'll show, if they lose badly, it shows that you failed. That is not true. And it's meant to discourage you from further organizing, from further investing and endeavoring to do things like drop site or any organizing that you're doing.
Why does he keep mentioning?
Okay, don't let that.
Why does he keep mentioning drop site? How much traffic does drop site get every month?
Sort of demoralization campaign affect you. Don't let it hit you. Okay, that's fear you're sensing. It's not loss. It's fear. Okay, on the other party's part.
Then we're going to see more of them in the years to come. So
what would you like to see? If Saeed wins the primary, would you like?
Dropsite News receives an estimated 771,310 visits per month based on the most recent available data from February 2026. That is not a lot. But to be fair to them, they're growing. December 2025, 354,000. January 2026, 443,000. February 2026, 771,000. So they're growing, which you would expect in an election year. That makes sense. But the idea that Dropsite News is, a major force right now, I don't think they're quite there yet. Maybe they're on their way to that point, but
To see the success of him thereby possibly lead to a permission structure and a more viable strategy for campaigning with Hasan, or would you like to see him lose so that he gets discredited?
I mean, I have my preference, but I'm not going to delude myself, like the fact that Syed went up. I mean, the other thing too is just like the fact that Fox News was covering this so aggressively. It's like they did kind of give him free press because they raised his national profile. Like more people know who Syed is now. And so like that, especially when you're only polling at like 22%, that could give you like a little bit of a bump. What's up in the
well, that seems really uncomfortable to me. That seems like a really uncomfortable question, guys. Hold on. Does Hutch get it totally from the other side? Is he basically going to argue exactly what I said, but from the lib side, the more liberal side, the more like progressive, the incremental change side? Like this is not actually, if he wins, that's not really going to mean much, actually.
He's so bad at predicting. This is the second video that I've watched from him, and he tries to do this thing where he's like, I know what Hutch is going to say before he even says it. I got this guy figured out. I'm on to his ruse. I'm wise to his game. And he does these predictions, and they're always wrong. Like, they're literally always wrong. I've not heard him predict a single thing correctly.
Fox News was covering this so aggressively. It's like they did kind of give him free press because they raised
JSTLK. If you're watching this, start pre-watching it, okay? Start pre-watching it, all right? Because it's like in both of these videos now, it's 10 to 20 times where you get these predictions wrong.
His national profile, like more people know who Syed is now. And so like that, especially when you're only polling at like 22%, that could give you like a little bit of a bump. What's up in the air is, how much more room does he have to grow?
Pisco just asked, if he won, what would be your prescription for liberals, for Democrats? That's literally not this. That's not the same.
In this race,
goes in a different direction.
Has he hit sort of like the hard cap? And we'll see in the next month here. But ultimately,
well, you said you had your preference, but your preference would be that he would win if he's the Democratic nominee.
If he's the Democratic nominee, of course I'll endorse him and suggest that people vote for him. But during the primaries, I think Syed is positioning himself as adversarial. Like he's doing the thing that I was talking about earlier, which is like he's framing himself as like opposition to the Democratic Party from within the Democratic Party. And so I don't want to see those kind of candidates win primaries personally. I don't love that Plattner is doing so well. So
I think that the populist left the Fetterman debacle has done a lot of damage to left-wing populists in this country.
The funny thing is, the very funny thing is like if you were to do the Cenk, like the Cenk argument here, it's that these populists can actually reach the center better than you. That like the way you guys communicate doesn't actually hit the average person. And someone like Graham Plattner, he's showing that he's hitting the average person way more. And I think he's got a different direction he can go in where he hits the average person like way harder. The average person hears him speak and they like get it. They feel it, right? That the way to the center is not to moderate. The way to the center is to break the paradigm. That they don't like the same thing they've been hearing. The way to get those more undecided voters is to break the paradigm, to be unique in some way, to actually say something that hits people emotionally, that resonates. Okay? It's like a different thing. This idea that the more moderate we become, the more moderate you become, the more like centrist voters like you. It's like, bro, the more we sand off any sharp edge or any real position, the more voters will like us. No, the less offensive they'll find you. But at this point, basically the appeal to the drive to become less offensive to everybody is the most offensive thing you could do to a lot of people.
I agree that it's not as simple as just like the terms. A lot of these terms themselves have become quite murky. I would say like moderate has become quite murky. The center has become quite murky. And I would never suggest that it's like, sometimes I simplify things just for the sake of like language, but I'm aware that there's a lot of people in the political center, and especially when it comes to swing voters, there's a lot of just incoherent kind of ideology. There's a lot of vibes-based kind of stuff going on with those voters. I don't know how else you could go from like voting for Hillary in 2016, Trump in 2020, Biden and and then like, and then Kamala in 2024. Like that doesn't really make any sense to me. But it sounds like he's pushing back against the idea that more kind of far lefty candidates, you can be successful running those candidates in like hyper competitive areas. And there's just not a lot of strong evidence for that right now. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's just a matter of just like timing and slightly altering messaging. But
because I think that no matter what, if you have a firebrand populist left-wing candidate, one question that's going to be raised is no more Fettermans. Are you going to be a Fetterman or not?
Political incoherence is mostly a consequence of the politics itself and how it interacts with society, education, etc. To a certain degree, I agree. Populist is not a sufficient condition for winning. It can mean right, liberal, or left. I would say generally that's true, but when there's a lot of discontent in society, then populism broadly can be very effective. You're seeing more left-wing populists now in the mainstream, but you're also seeing a lot of candidates, a lot of like more establishment type Dems, normie type Dems that are moving in the direction of populism without fully committing to populism, without fully committing to the framing. They're kind of walking right up to the line. Like Ossoff, I think, is a really kind of perfect example of this, where he speaks to people's anger and frustrations. He speaks to people's distrust of institutions and the government. He talks about corruption a lot. But I haven't heard him use the same kind of language as Bernie, where it's like the 1% of the 1% are trying to fuck you. And he's not really quite doing it, going like Plattner with it. Tallarico, He's kind of doing it a little bit more. Like I would say he is doing populism. It's just kind of like a light kind of populism. But there's no question right now that the mainstream view of the voter in this country is that they think that the government has become corrupt. That is everywhere. And that was not always the thing. That was not always the case. Back in the 80s and the 90s when I was growing up, and even like throughout the 2000s, you didn't really see this level of distrust for government and this level of belief that government has become totally corrupt. I think the housing crash and the bailouts fucking like fucked us for 30 years. I think when that happened and the perception of government that happened after that set us on a path that's going to last like 20 or 30 years. I'm hopeful that we can get to a place where most people in the country don't think that government is completely corrupt. But I can't see it. It's very opaque. A lot of people don't like the fact. I think I think that people's concern about stock trading by Congress people is overblown, but I support banning stock trading for politicians because I think I think it's kind of necessary right now. Because even if it's not true that like the majority of Congress people are doing insider trading, like I don't know how much truth there is to that. The perception is there. And so as long as that perception is there, it is causing issues. Because if the people don't trust the government, the citizens of a country think that the government has become completely corrupt. That kind of dynamic makes con men and grifters much more prevalent because there's something to exploit there. It's much easier to exploit people if they're already distrustful of the government. And so then you get people like Trump, and then you get people like, I would argue, Plattner. And so it's just untenable in the long run. Like we have to do something to instill trust again. And that's not an easy thing to do. Adam with $10, I would argue a lot of the populist sentiment is driven by online political grifters having such large reach. Yes, that is another angle to this, but yes, they play a vital role in the ascent of populism in this country. It's very much, I think, intertwined with like the rise of populism. Well, this is an interesting trend line here. This is a Pew Research graph. What do we call this? A graph showing trust in government over time. So this is 1964, and it started to fall off of a fucking cliff in 1964. Jesus. Wait a second. I know what this is. These are the racists. These are the fucking racists. We used to have near 80% trust in government, and then that fell off of a cliff right after they passed civil rights and voting rights. You guys think it's Vietnam? Vietnam, I don't think was... Well, now I have to go back and remember. Is this Vietnam? I guess Vietnam would have to be a part of it too, but a lot of this is going to be people in the South that no longer trust the government because they ended Jim Crow. Like, I have to assume a lot of this. And then it took a sharp decline in one cycle because of Watergate. And then down here, this is like the post-Watergate malaise coupled with high inflation and unemployment that happened at the end of the 70s and the early 80s. And then you see trust in government start to rebound a bit on the Reagan beat. When was Iran-Contra? 1985 and 1986. I wonder if Iran-Contra had something to do with it here. And then George W. Bush, or H.W. Bush, what was going on during H.W. Bush that got people so upset? Look at that, trust in government, major rebound during the Clinton years, going from 20% to as high as 54%. Fell off of a cliff again during the George W. Bush years, and then it just fucked us. So I was just wrong about this, actually. Wait, no, was I wrong about this? I said that trust in government wasn't this bad in the 80s and 90s, which I guess technically that's true. Like there was a low point that culminated in 94, it looks like. But there was a rebound of trust during the Reagan years, and there was a rebound of trust during the Clinton years. But certainly after the bank bailout guys, I think it really can't be overstated just how impactful that was. Man, did that fuck this country up. Okay.
And I think that there's a lot of tentativeness now in terms of trust. And so that's one area where I think Senate Democrats who want to be more of this firebrand, who want to be more like Bernie, less like...
I do feel like this is the feeling I get is like actually, and I can believe this, by the way, I can believe this and still think it's a really dumb message, but it's almost like, guys, actually, 2016 Hillary Clinton was like the best candidate. Guys, wasn't Hillary awesome? We're gonna be like more like Hillary. We're gonna be a party of Hillary Clinton.
I don't recall saying that. Wait, hang on.
I do feel like this is the feeling I get is like actually, and I can believe this, by the way. I can believe this and still think it's a really dumb message. But it's almost like, guys, actually, 2016 Hillary Clinton was like the best candidate. Guys, wasn't Hillary awesome? We're gonna be like more like Hillary. We're gonna be a party of Hillary Clinton. And it's like, dude, I understand that I do wish Hillary Clinton had won the 2016 election, okay, and saved us from the world nearly ending.
Okay.
But she didn't. And there's a lot of fear. I have a lot of fear that just thinking that she...
I mean, I do think on paper, listen, I'm not saying like Hillary Clinton, I think suffered the most, I think, from being like too polished. That makes sense. Because on paper, she straight up literally was the most qualified person to be president in the last probably like 40 years. She like, do you guys remember the commentary about how like the debates, like she was too prepared for the debates? Like there was not a single question that was asked that she hadn't very obviously like really prepared for. Like to me, that's a good thing. Like I don't see that as a bad thing at all. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, like, of course I want politicians who are going to be like prepared. I don't want any politician to be taken off guard by a question. Like they should be prepared for like everything. But for a lot of people, they felt like it was like very canned responses. So she came across as inauthentic. And there was a lot of commentary around the 2016 debates where it was like she was too prepared. And then Donald Trump, in contrast, even though he had done debate prep, he was more about like improvising, and you know, he was more about those like, you know, quick little sound bites, like stuff that he would just say off the cuff. And so that gave the country, I think, the impression that he was more authentic than her, which is just fucking amazing considering he's just straight up probably the most dishonest politician in United States history. And nonetheless, he was perceived as authentic while she was perceived as too mechanical, too automated, you know?
It was the way to win more moderate people's hearts. It's just not. Come on, man.
Like Fetterman, I think they need to reestablish trust and show the Democratic constituency that they're not going to be just another pack of Fettermans.
Yep. Well, this would be a good time to announce Hutch and I will be going to Michigan to campaign for McMorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, barely buried the lead on your endorsement.
I was so confused here. I was like, wait, what? And then like internally I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to Michigan. And in my mind, I was like, oh, something's being organized, but they haven't reached out to me yet. I was like, what is happening right now?
That is, yeah.
Wow. That was crazy.
I would pick McMorrow over Stevens and Syed 1,000%. Like I do hope that McMorrow wins the nomination for sure.
That was a crazy thing to say. That was a totally insane thing to say. Okay.
That's cool.
Oh, are you joking?
Oh. Hutch is so confused.
I think he's joking. Yeah. I was like, oh shit.
I was like, how long did it take for you to say that?
I thought you were dead serious. I still can't tell if you're joking.
I would do it. I definitely want to see Hasan fall flat, but and it sucks that this candidate may have to pay the price, but I do not want to see Hasan get this sort of power and attention. I do not think he's good in the long run.
We can't sacrifice what we want.
That would have been a tough presidency for Hillary if she would have won. That would have been really tough. She would have been elected, but in a way, I think I don't know. In a way, she might have been more popular because what happened was like 2016, Donald Trump won that race like by a dick hair with pretty decent majority in the House. I think I recall like being like a 35 seat majority in the House, and I want to say like a 2-seat majority in the Senate. And if Hillary would have won that race instead, but it was the same Congress, then I think there's a decent chance that she would have been more popular with the Republican Congress than she would have been with the Democratic Congress. Because like usually, I mean, that's like the concept of political capital. Like if it would have been if it would have been Hillary Clinton with a Democratic Congress, then you know you have the power to do things, and so you're vulnerable to attack. But if you're a lame duck president, right? Like if you get elected, but then the American people deliver a Congress that is controlled by the opposition party, well, then she has an excuse for like not getting legislation done, and she can sort of define herself
as being in conflict with a Congress. Like she could be the one attacking the Congress for not delivering a legislative agenda. And so I don't know, that's interesting. But I think that would have been tough. Like I don't know how much she would have been able to get done. Like she would have just not had a legislative agenda. And so everything, her presidency would have been defined by the things that she could just do with executive power, which, you know, you can do a lot, but you're pretty limited, right?
To win because of someone we don't like endorsed them, right? I mean, like,
why McMorrow over Syed? Well, first of all, I looked at McMorrow's policy page, and she seems like someone who is sort of on the spectrum in between progressive and moderate. And so she has some like decently progressive, like when we go to Mallory McMorrow, she focuses on gun violence prevention, economic development, reproductive rights, healthcare reform. She's been a strong advocate for gun violence prevention measures, including the introduction of Michigan's first extreme risk protection order, which is a red flag law. This law aims to prevent individuals deemed a risk to themselves or others from accessing firearms. So even though the Democrats, I would say, are like, this is a weakness for the party right now, is a lot of our gun positions, especially if we're trying to get independent voters back or swing voters back. Like a lot of men and a lot of men, independent voters, like gun stuff is pretty important to them. But support for red flag laws is really high. Like 80% of the country thinks that there should be stricter red flag laws. And so my gut says that Democrats need to kind of like back off a little bit from the gun stuff, but red flag laws are so popular that that's not something that I would be worried about for her. As Senate Majority Whip, she has worked to strengthen the economy by raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, supporting small businesses, eliminating retirement tax on seniors. She emphasizes the need for economic policies that benefit working and middle-class families in Michigan. For reproductive rights, McMorrow has been vocal about protecting reproductive rights, including efforts to repeal Michigan's 1931 abortion ban and expand access to reproductive health care. Wait, abortion is banned in Michigan? Wait, what? She believes in ensuring that individuals have the right to make their own healthcare decisions. Healthcare reform. In a recent interview, McMorrow discussed her approach to healthcare, advocating for a public option that would provide affordable healthcare coverage for all Michiganders. She argued that this would create competition among private insurers and help reduce the cost for consumers. God, I would love if we had a fucking public option, you guys. Jesus Christ. God, I would love that. Oh my God, I would love a public option so much. We can do it. We can do it. Just got to get rid of the fucking filibuster. We just got to get rid of the filibuster. That's what we got to do. We just got to get rid of the fucking filibuster. If we get rid of the filibuster, please God in heaven, the next Democratic Congress, please get rid of the fucking filibuster. Just pull the fucking Band-Aid off. Just rip it off, okay? It's going. It's going at some point. Education and community support. McMorrow has also focused on education, advocating for universal K-12 school meals and funding for public schools. She believes in investing in education. Anti-surveillance pricing policies. Interesting. Anyways, we looked at her policies page last week and, you know, definitely line up with her on most things. And I just don't like, I'm going to be honest, I just don't like Syed. I don't, and it's not even just because of the Hasan thing. Like, I don't like him. Why though? I want a Congress that is going to be functional. Like, I want a Congress, like I want the Democratic Conference in the House and the Senate to be one that works together to get legislation done. That's what I want. I want a Congress that is not going to spend a lot of time like fighting with each other. I am looking for candidates who are focused on cooperating with their colleagues, with their fellow elected Democrats in the Congress to get legislation done. And people like Syed and Plattner are marketing themselves as firebrands who will like fight with the party. And I think that people like candidates like Syed are more likely to reject legislation because there's too many compromises they feel. You know, like I don't like Cory Bush not voting for the infrastructure bill, like that type shit. Jamal Bowman not voting for the infrastructure bill, like that type shit. Knowing that it's going to pass, but they vote against it so they can look like they have like cred to their voters. I don't want those kinds of Democrats. I don't want to have a situation where we have the small majority in the Senate, and then you have someone like Syed who's voting down bills because they don't go far enough. I don't want that. I know some people do. Some people think that it's good to be uncompromising in that way. And some people interpret that to mean that the person is principled, but I don't think of it in that way at all. And then I also have, supposedly Fun brings up another point here where it's like, I also don't feel confident that El Sayed can win in a general election. Yeah, exactly. This is a state that barely voted for Alyssa Slotkin. Okay. Like she barely won her Senate race. How much were her margins? By how much did Alyssa Slotkin win her Senate race? Bro, Jesus Christ, you guys. That was a fucking close race. Jesus, titty fucking Christ. Alyssa Slotkin won by 17,000 votes in Michigan, which represented 0.3%. That was a very close race, okay? And so if she barely won her seat in a state that voted for Donald Trump in 2024, I just have serious doubts that someone like Syed can win. Now, the flip side of that is, number one, the electorate could be just in a very, very different place right now after currently a year and a half of Donald Trump. And so maybe this electorate would have voted for Slotkin by like 10 plus percentage points. And it's also, I think, very likely that we're headed to a midterm where basically any candidate that would normally have candidate quality problems, those problems are going to be mitigated by the fact that Donald Trump is going to be so unpopular that basically any Democrat can win in that race. And so I haven't seen a lot of hypothetical general polls with like Syed versus the Republican. So it's not really based on anything. It's just like intuitively, I don't think his brand of politics are what lead to like the more successful races. You do have outliers that sort of prove to be the exception to the rule, which is like Plattner is very much framing himself to be like a maverick and a firebrand and someone who's going to like fight with Democratic leadership. And he's like crushing in Maine. And so there's not a universal standard or a universal rule about these things. And so I reserve the right to do more research into Syed and look and see if we've had like a lot of hypothetical polls with him in a general versus a Republican, and maybe he's really strong and I just don't even know it. But just on paper, I don't like Syed, and he's just not the kind of Democrat that I'm looking to help elect. I just think that there would be, I want Democrats that are eager to cooperate and just get as much done as possible, like pass as many bills as possible.
That'd be the determining factor.
I don't think, but IRI's like lived up, like super lived up. I don't think IRI would like El Sayed better in the first place. I think McMorrow would have been like IRI's. Stevens might have been even closer to IRI what he would want, but McMorrow is plenty good for IRI. I do think he would want McMorrow.
Factor as to whether or not you'd wanted to win, right?
No, it is. To me, it's his judgment is way off teaming up with Hasan.
Oh, wow.
So
it's a judgment question.
That's a factor.
It's a huge, it's very problematic. It seems to me a desperate attempt to.
Wait, hold on. You don't want him to win because the judgment is bad. But if he won, then the judgment wouldn't be bad. Hello? The judgment would have been good if he wins. If he was not going to win, and then the judgment is bad because you say, actually, he won, but I don't like that because his judgment. What? Lost. I'm lost. The Hasan Badass show is on. Sick. Well, they only did like 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, this isn't really sound logic. You can have an instance where Hasan collaborating with a politician helped him in a particular race, and that happening doesn't disprove the premise that I think IRI is working with, which is that Hasan is broadly toxic. You can have exceptions to the rule, you can have outliers, but that doesn't prove to be some kind of a inconsistency.
Minutes of it today, okay? They only did 20 minutes, and there's some reasonable pushback this time. I thought that was that's a crazy thing to say. You could say you could say that he's only saying that I don't want him to win because, or I don't like that he went to Hasan at all. Oh, it's a desperate attempt. Actually, you know what? Let's listen to his whole thing. But I think he had to do this.
Judgment is way off teaming up with Hasan.
Oh, wow.
So
It's a judgment question.
That's a factor.
It's a huge, it's very problematic. It seems to me a desperate.
Oh, please ask why. Please just ask why. Please just no. I need to know why. What about teaming up with Hasan makes the judgment bad.
Attempt to rise above the fray.
That's not it.
And it just
seems like a desperate attempt to rise above the fray. That basically, if you're behind in a three-way race, that's smart. It's obviously like a good judgment to make if you're rising above the fray. You have to say why it's bad to team up with Hasan.
It seems to me a desperate attempt to rise above the fray. And it just kind of, it just rubs me the wrong way. So I think McMorrow is a great candidate. I like her a lot. So it just, to me, it pushes her away.
Oh, sure. If it's like, okay, all else equal, these are pretty close, and then this thing pushed me over the edge, that's fine. But I mean, like, if it was not close to me, I wouldn't take the endorsement of, like, you know, if David Duke came in and was like, yeah, like, let's go Al Sayed, I'd be like, that's really weird of you to white
but if you start campaigning with, and listen, this is not.
Yeah, it's not an analog at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Not to clip.
Oh, bruh. Never mind. Don't defend Hasan, Soy Pill. Don't defend Hasan. We're good, buddy. I can handle it. Pisco can handle it. Just sit on the sidelines for a second, okay? That was rough.
We're not saying that David is on, all right, folks? Clippers out there. We're not saying, but you would. I don't think it's like something that you shouldn't take into consideration who someone chooses to campaign with. I mean, that is
it's not irrelevant.
So you can take it into the Liz Cheney thing was obviously something like lefties can't even be mad about that. If you're just saying it looks bad, but IRI didn't say that. IRI said it was a bad judgment because he tried to raise himself above the fray, rise above the fray. He tried to like get ahead in the polls. That is literally what campaigning is about. That's what politicking is. You're trying to rise above the fray. You can't say trying to politic and get voters on your side is bad politics. You have to say why you have some objection to Hasan's character. You have to actually make a prescription, like why you don't like him, why you think El Sayed is a bad person, right? You have to basically.
I don't know El Sayed, so I wouldn't say he's a bad person, but I have watched like that, I don't know, like Bernie is the best example of a politician who throughout his whole career, he's kind of branded himself as a bit of like a maverick and a firebrand and a rabble rouser. And his supporters really love him for that. But he tried to take that formula and then win a primary in 2016 and 2020. And he got blown out in 2016, and then it was like even worse in 2020. And so I just don't think that those politics, I don't think that that messaging is going to consistently work. I think it's going to consistently produce worse outcomes. And I know for a fact that black voters do not like that kind of messaging, that kind of framing. It turns a lot of black voters off. They're not looking for a politician to come in and be elected to the Senate and then act as like, and then be like a headache for the party and be like an obstacle to legislation. They do not so far, they do not connect with that kind of messaging. And they are so important to the Democratic Party, you guys, like black voters. The fact that 90+% of black voters vote for Democrats very consistently, especially black women, but you know, we can talk about everybody. They are so crucial to Democratic Party politics. And the only way that you could sidestep that is if you made up for the losses of the black voters that you would alienate with more adversarial messaging. If you could make up for those demographic losses by picking up a considerable amount of voters in different demographics, which that is possible. It's possible you could do that, but it's hard. It's really hard. Black voters are Democratic Party, is the Democratic Party fucking superpower. Is Hutch generalizing black voters? I don't think I'm generalizing. I'm pointing to trends. Give me a single candidate that ran on like, I'm going to buck the establishment. I'm going to challenge the Democratic leadership. That was popular with black voters. Just like, give me one single candidate where they were popular with black voters. I don't think that's a thing. I'm pretty sure that's never happened. We are not a monolith. So when I say black voters, I'm not meaning literally not a single black voter like insurgent candidates. I'm not saying that. I'm saying broadly, the trend is that black voters do not typically support the insurgent kind of maverick candidates, the anti-establishment candidates.
None of those have any real policy prescription that resonates with voters at all. How does taxing the rich not have a clear path forward? We're ignoring what Mamdani just did. So first of all, what do you think Mamdani just did? Second of all, the Democratic Party is already in favor of taxing the rich more. Okay. We're already in favor of that. We already do that. We already fucking do that. Joe Biden did that. Blue states where Democrats are in control of the state government, they already, like, the blue states have higher marginal tax rates. Okay. We already do this. We already do this. I don't know. I don't understand why, like, progressives are like, oh, you don't want to tax the rich more? No, motherfucker. We just, like, a lot of people don't like a wealth tax specifically. We're not opposed to raising taxes on wealthy people. Oh, I'm sorry, blue crayons. I'm a little hyper vigilant right now.
Basically argue that although this is effective with voters, I think it's a moral, it's a bad judgment on it's a character flaw. That's where the bad judgment is. Not in terms of the analysis that he might rise above, because he clearly has, for one thing, and I think he's going to continue to, even if he doesn't win. Like, it's clear that this helped.
It's not the single thing that would push me over the edge one way or the other, but it matters.
On a macro level, I really want the sort of like Hasan wing of Democratic Party politics to fail miserably in November, but it's for good reasons. It's because I want them to, like, learn a valuable lesson, and I want them to start paying attention.
Wait, November is not literally the midterm elections. He means, like, now for the primaries, right? Isn't November the actual midterm elections? Or when would those? Yeah, you don't want them to fail in November. You basically just said you want Plattner to lose, which I think is actually.
I did misspeak there. I don't want Plattner to lose. I don't want any Democrat to lose in November. I just misspoke right there. I was talking about the primaries. If Plattner wins the nomination in Maine, I fucking desperately want that guy to beat Susan Collins. She's the fucking white whale. If there was one senator that I wanted to lose their seat in this entire cycle right now, it's Collins. Like, I want to take her down. And then obviously, like, if Syed wins the nomination in Michigan, then I definitely want him to win that race too. So I just misspoke there. It's not a big deal.
Hinting at your underlying motive here, but that's like an insane thing to say. That literally, you're the blue no matter who guy, and you're literally dude, my brain.
It's not complicated. I just misspoke.
That's a wild thing to say. Yeah, will somebody call him on it?
In November, but
November,
it's for good reasons. It's because I want them to, like, learn a valuable lesson, and I want them to start paying attention to Mamdani more in terms of, like, how to do politics. And
what did Mamdani do? I think Mamdani ran a further left campaign that he was going to, like, actually govern, probably because of, restrictions. But the campaign was effective. So why are you against them running the campaign that way?
I don't know. Like, I'm not against people taking notes from Mamdani's campaign, and it's not about the ideology. It's just about his level of pragmatism. That's what I'm focused on. So, like, if you want to run on a left-wing platform, you can do that without fully committing. Number one, you can do that without fully committing to populist brain rot. And number two, you can do that without being, like, so adversarial against the Democratic Party that you're framed as, like, an outsider who is going to, like, buck the establishment or whatever. To my knowledge, I don't think he did position himself as someone who was going to be very adversarial with the Democratic Party. Like, I think correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Am I wrong about this? I don't remember Mamdani running quite like Bernie did. I remember Mamdani being much more like, there were a lot more smiles. He was a lot more pleasant and warm. Like, he ran a positive campaign. I don't remember him running like a negative campaign. And then after he got elected, he's just been very pragmatic. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say I want progressives to learn from him and use him as a useful instruction for how to be successful with those kinds of politics.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Right now,
that appears to be true.
Very emboldened in a way that I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think that their evaluation of the current moment is.
Wait, actually, hold on. I didn't even think to say this. Hold on.
Like, learn about Democratic Party politics to fail.
Dude, hold on. I got to go back and do the whole thing again. We got to take another run at this because holy, you guys are making.
Where's he going with this one, guys? What code did he crack?
A good point, chat. Just give me a second.
It's not
Progressives should smile more. Unironically, yes.
It's not the single thing that would push me over the edge one way or the other, but it matters.
On a macro level, I really want the sort of like Hasan wing of Democratic Party politics to fail miserably in November, but
in November being the actual general election for the midterms, meaning I guess we just want the lefties to lose. We want MAGA to win.
It is not complicated. I misspoke, and I talk about this stuff so often that I think most people who like follow me would know that I misspoke right there, because my whole thing is like literally just vote for the Democrat.
The lefties, guys. That's an insane thing to say.
I want the like Hasan wing of the party to get, let me correct myself, to get fucking decimated during this cycle. But I guess I should be more specific, like during the primaries. I want them to get decimated during the primaries.
Maybe a Freudian slip, maybe a mix-up. I'm not totally sure, okay? But that's already insane.
Yes.
But wait, it does get better.
Oh boy. It's for good reasons. It's because I want them to like learn a valuable lesson, and I want them to start paying attention to Mamdani more in terms of...
Oh, hold on. Mamdani more? Hold on. Wait. You want them to learn from Mamdani? Like this Mamdani? Like this guy? Like this? He wants them to learn a lesson, a valuable lesson.
Oh my God. This does not help his point at all, by the way, because this was, I think, like several months before the election. And since then, he has not done any kind of like joint appearance with Hasan Piker. And I believe he has condemned Hasan on at least 2 occasions. I think this helps my point. Like, yes, I think Mamdani is smart. Do you know why? Because he actually fucking condemned Hasan. And, you know, he has to keep his correspondence with Hasan private, which for whatever reason, Hasan keeps flexing like, oh yeah, no, I still talk with Mamdani behind the scenes. It's like, bro, if Mamdani is keeping his like correspondence with you secret, it's because he thinks you're toxic. So like, why are you forcefully rubbing yourself on him when he doesn't want that?
And from Zoran K. Mamdani. All right.
When was this? April 7th, 2025. This was 7 months before the election. 7 months before the election. And then Mamdani distanced himself in public from Hasan.
Apparently, Hutch is... Wait, Hutch, you're sending mixed messages. What lesson exactly do you want
I don't think I am.
from Zoran Mamdani? I just want them to take a page out of Zoran's book. How about this page, Hutch? What do we think about this page? Would this page be good? I feel like this page would be...
I don't think it's good.
Maybe this page not so bad.
I don't think it is good.
What do we think?
I don't think it is good.
That's a totally insane thing to say. Dude, I want them to fail. I want them to take a page from Zoran. The topic is literally that you shouldn't campaign with Hasan. Zoran campaigned with Hasan.
7 months before the election.
Cool.
He sat down for one conversation, I think, is my understanding. And I don't think that he had any other appearances with Hasan after that. And he condemned Hasan during the fucking debate. There was a moment where he had to condemn Hasan during the fucking debate, you guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Woof. This show is special. This show is very, very special. You love to see it. All right, let's I think we're close to finishing up here.
Like how to do politics. And right now they seem very emboldened in a way that I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think that their evaluation of the current moment is grounded in reality. Like they do seem to think that there's a massive kind of surge of their kind of politics all over the country. And they selectively pick like...
The massive surge of their kind of politics is seen in Donald Trump winning an election in 2024.
Donald Trump winning in 2024 was a sign that the far left's politics are ascending right now? How does that... What? Excuse me? Is he conflating populism with like far left politics?
And to steal the 2020 election. That's the massive surge in their politics. They are just trying to say that you guys are the party of
I fucking hate populism. I fucking hate populism. I fucking hate populism. I fucking hate it.
Like what is it? of slow and steady decline. You guys are the party of like just basically rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. You guys are the party of failure. And that even if they're lying, the Republicans are trying to paint like some vision on how things could change. And you're just like, no, things are really good. But nobody thinks things are really good. And if you're going to run on a platform of, well, weren't things great under Biden? And we'll go back to like just, slow incremental change.
I would definitely not frame a campaign along these lines. I don't ask for much, man. Just don't straw man the shit out of me. Please, I think that's fair. Like, just don't straw man the fucking shit out of me, Don't pull poop out of me by straw manning me. Constantly straw manning me. I would never in 1,000 years recommend that the 2028 Dem nominee run on, hey guys, everything was actually really good under Biden. You just didn't realize it. So let's go back to that. I would never fucking run on that kind of messaging. Jag with $10. This guy has the political analysis of a penguin. Also, he used to be an anti-populism guy, yes, less than a year ago. Wait, what? Is that true? Give me evidence of that. Show me a clip of him being anti-populist. This guy's fucking all over the place, man. How many ideologies can he swing to in a single 3-year span? Can't relate. I'm still the same harm reduction lib I've been for the last fucking 25 years.
Steady, repetitive decline, and we'll be all good, guys. You're not going to talk about any of the big issues, any of the massive icebergs facing your country and broadly the planet.
The president is a
We're not going to talk about any of that. We're just going to be like, guys, listen, if we just build 5% more housing, we really solve a lot of problems.
I would definitely not run on this, for the record. Why do I need to even? Obviously.
I don't think anybody feels that way. And I'm not saying burn it down, but you got to actually talk about what's happening. Why unemployment continues to rise. Why the economy is in the shitter. Why it's not likely that it will recover in the near future. Somebody has to talk about it, right? Surely we can't all enter this totally derealized state, the state where nothing is real, nothing.
The Democrats are already doing this, you guys. They're already running aggressively on the economy and talking about the myriad ways that Donald Trump is fucking this economy. They're already running on that right now.
We can't actually evaluate the world. And
in fact, guys, for the first time since 2006, I think, a majority of Americans trust the Democrats on the economy over Republicans. That is a big deal. The single most effective propaganda effort from the Republican Party in the last 40 years is they found a way to convince the public that they're better on the economy, even though they fuck the economy literally every fucking time. And yet they convinced the public that they were the party of fiscal responsibility and that they could be trusted with the economy more. And that held for 2 decades. And it's just now this month, according to Gallup or Pew or one of the big ones, a slight majority, it's by 5-point margin, trust Democrats over Republicans on the economy. That's actually a really huge deal.
That's what they're arguing. They are arguing for Soviet era hypernormalization of the current state. Basically saying, no, things are great, aren't they? As they continuously decline.
What Democrats are doing this? What Democrats are running on this? Where does he get this information? What is up with these fucking Canadians? If you're going to cover American politics as a Canadian, okay, that's fine. But what are you talking about? What Democrats are running on, actually everything's fine. You guys just don't realize it yet. Who's doing this? What the fuck are you talking about?
No.
I agree. Don't do that. That's silly.
I think there's still some hope. Not a big hope. I'm basically that's a small percentage that some liberal change could be made. But if you're not willing to talk about the problems, you're never going to gradually fix the problems. You have to be able to discuss what the problems are for you to be able to fix them.
I think I understand what's going on here. I think he thinks the problems are, he's going to frame the problems within a populist framework. And so the things that he identifies as problems are not necessarily the same things that, normie Democrats are identifying as problems. And therefore, because the normie Democrats are not accepting his framework and discussing his problems and centering his problems as being the main problems, in his mind, he's they never talk about the problems. It's well, they do. They just don't necessarily agree with you on what the problems are and what the best solutions for those problems are.
All right. old Hasan tweet, old Zoran tweet, but funny. Let's check it out. What is this? What is this? What is this? Socialist candidates can win all over the country because the working class exists all over the country. Congratulations to all, with special love from CMK Shama, a giant of the left and champion of working people. Queens beat Amazon, and so will Seattle. Okay, let's go. Socialist candidates can win all over the country because the working class exists all over the country.
Econo boy, what's up, buddy? I know you're watching me. I know you're watching me because you just texted me. Come back, man. Come on, come back. It's time for you to come back. You were great. You were fucking great, man. You were a phenomenal addition to the podcast. It's not the same without you. I mean, Pisco is fine as fuck, and Soy Pill is basically built like he was chiseled from marble. Okay, they're pretty to look at, but it's not the same without you. Time for you to come back. Enough time has passed. It's not toxic anymore. They agree with you now. They're on board with you. The same people that were skewering you online, all of them are now proposing wildly illiberal things. So you're good now. They don't like me now. It flipped.
That's what I would say. Guess who's voting against you, Democrats? It's the working class. And you're never going to be able to show them a graph that GDP went up like 0.4% under Biden over expectations. And so listen, Dems had all the right ideas. It's just not going to work. I really don't believe it will work. Anyway. Whoa. Let's I keep thinking we're done, but we've done.
Just don't strawman me. It's not that hard. Just don't fucking strawman me. Why is that difficult? You know, I don't think I'm asking for much. Just like accurately describe the things that I say. And then if you want to criticize those things, fine. We can fucking debate about that. But how do you have a conversation with someone if they're not even listening to you or don't understand the things that you're saying?
Not been done so far.
A few kind of high profile races and ignore the kind of quiet normie Dems that are just like very quietly murdering Republicans by like 30 points. But, you know, they see the polls of the Democratic Party approval being so low and they see approval for Israel being so low. And I think they take that as a validation of like their philosophy. And I think that it's like a correlation, not causation kind of situation here because.
Oh, that's totally true. Hutch has finally said something sane.
Oh, shit.
It isn't a validation of socialist economics that people have turned on Israel.
Okay.
It is a validation of the approach they took.
Israel? What the fuck? When do we start talking about Israel?
The attention they drew, their outrage, their anger. It's a validation of that. It's not a validation of like socialist economics or speaking like in terms of populist economics, speaking to the working class. It's not a validation of their worldview, but it is absolutely a validation of like, hey, Israel's bad. And guess who can't say that in unison?
Israel?
As a party. Well, actually, both parties. But the parties of gradual change, right? That they're so...
Well, I mean, if we just ignore recent events, sure. But I mean, like 85%, I think it was 85% of congressional Democrats voting against all funding for Israel. That was just last week. That's kind of a big deal, you know? That's kind of a big deal. Including Iron Dome. I mean, that's pretty big deal, right?
Those set in their ways, they're incapable of acknowledging the reality in front of them with any alacrity whatsoever. They have to hedge constantly. They can never, ever call a spade a spade. And that's starting to wear thin on every single person on the planet. Okay? It just is. And what is it? Dude, there's, oh man, is it an MLK saying? Those who make peace impossible make violence inevitable. Those who make equality impossible make violence inevitable. Something like this. There's like a way of describing the idea that if things are broken, things aren't working, and you refuse to acknowledge that or even hint towards change, if things are truly broken, you make some kind of like violence, some kind of revolutionary ideas inevitable. I believe that you have to start talking about this stuff. You gotta. Even if it's a meta conversation about like, hey, maybe... Because technology is such a big thing. I think if you start with the meta conversation, which a lot of people have had this, but it seems to have disappeared. Hey, we're not updating fast enough with technology, right? That speaks to a foundational weakness of liberal democracies. They cannot update fast enough to keep up with technology. If you let these technological gains for corporations that have shareholders and are not beholden to any government, if you let these technological gains compound over a long enough period of time, they will outpace the actual citizenry of the United States, the government of the United States, in some way. So I think that's where it starts.
Well, that's why you have like antitrust laws and regulation. But I think like I agree about I'm very worried about this Congress and their ability to adapt to the technological advancements that are happening with really startling frequency when it comes to AI. Like that, I think that is a genuine concern. And typically, but Congress has been a bit behind the curve when it comes to like massive disruptions in technology or whatever. But he's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, because he's saying that liberal democracies just fundamentally cannot handle the current rate of like accelerating technology. I mean, maybe he's right, but I mean, so this means what? So you throw out liberal democracy for like, should we emulate China and just be like a one party, just like enforce like a one party rule and just crush dissent and fuck red tape, just kind of do whatever you want, like toss out like individual rights? Like what is he proposing would be necessary to constrain the rate of technological growth and the negative externalities that causes for the citizenry?
That's where you basically get at the weakness of liberal democracy right now, is through technology. I think, been thinking about it a little bit, that seems to be where you start to tug at the thread. We'll see. Keep
There's
listening.
just not a lot of strong evidence that they're kind of like positioned to take over the party right now. And what does it say about their movement when that is their goal? And they don't really seem to be positioned well to do that, despite the fact that the Democratic Party approval rating is at historic lows. Like if there was ever a time to take over the party, now would be it.
Also, you have to accept when you lose. And every time that wing loses, they just blame cheating and that it's not their candidate failed. It's always something was rigged and they had the deck stacked.
This is
Jesus Christ.
It's true on both sides. So what IRI is saying is true, that people are willing to make all kinds of excuses when they lose, and it's, APAC money, all of the things, right? But also those things happen, and there is going to be there is going to be institutional friction towards your candidates. You will have to overcome that, right? It's never going to go away until you start winning significantly. It's not going away. You're not even close yet to having like enough clout, enough of a power base to stop that institutional friction. You have to overwhelm it. Yes, but transnational capital can't be a threat unless they reach some sort of like technological parity or militaristic parity with the US. Ultimately, the US has the tools to solve the transnational capital problem, Porterbellar, I think. But I think that at least the U.S. does. No other country does, but at least the U.S. does. And it's tough to know, because if you're to get to, I'm just thinking in my head, like, what if China starts? There's a lot of different dominoes here. I wonder if anybody really has a good handle on that system. Like, what would happen? Like, let's say hypothetically they decide to put a big wealth tax in the U.S. Start like taking shares from companies. Does everything just explode? Like, where do those companies generate value? How do they generate value? How can these things move? Where can that capital go ultimately, that their assets are protected? I'm not sure. I'm sure there's like videos on it, like schizos who are at least like putting the dots together. Like basically the transnational capital is going to flee here, here, and here. Like if it goes to China, I think China has enough production, enough military capacity that you're not going to be able to like do anything to China. There would be reasons not to go there, and also like all the value in the companies in the U.S. stock market. So I don't know. Man, it's one of those things where it's like when you audit everything, who holds the cards? Who's got the leverage?
This is a little out of my wheelhouse. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
I don't know. In any case, it's basically always come down to it doesn't matter who has the leverage, because the U.S. military exists. That's what it's been for like 70 years now? 80 years now, essentially. Never mattered. As long as nation states can compete on tax and labor costs, the U.S. alone cannot solve this. No, I'm saying that the U.S. would have to be world police at that point. The U.S. would start enforcing this. Right? That the U.S. would use the threat of their military. This is why I joke that like I don't want to waste munitions in Iran that are going to be needed for Switzerland. Like I wish they'd stop wasting munitions in Iran because they're going to be required for Switzerland. Okay, is the kind of thing I'm saying. Would have to be world police at that point. The U.S. would start enforcing this, right? That the U.S. would use the threat of their military. This is why I joke that like I don't want to waste munitions in Iran that are going to be needed for Switzerland. Like, I wish they'd stop wasting munitions in Iran because they're going to be required for Switzerland, is the kind of thing I'm saying. Like, you need the actual military might of the U.S. And so that's why I've always said that I don't think a military buildup is actually a bad idea, like the high Pentagon budgets. I don't actually think it's a high.
So I'm a little confused. So he wants America to be a global hegemonic power that is enforcing Like authoritarian socialism? Is that what he's talking about? Like a globally planned economy with America using its military dominance to, you know, like enforce a more centrally planned global economy? Like, is that what he's talking about? He's not the first person to come up with that idea. He's not the first person to come up with that idea.
A bad idea. I think the U.S. military is going to need to be strong no matter where the future goes, for the sake of, like, I don't know, human happiness, basically. Yeah, I'm hitting play.
Stacked against them, and to me, that's no better than MAGA. I mean, that's Donald Trump. Like, our democracy requires.
No. It's not a military economy. It's the idea that the U.S. doesn't even produce anything, and the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency because the U.S. has the military that could actually enforce freedom of navigation and this global just-in-time manufacturing sphere we have. The U.S. military is the only one that could do it, the U.S. Navy, right? And so people do allow the U.S. to basically get away with not producing anything and only doing financial services and just betting on things. We're like gambling. North America broadly is gambling and off in a corner, okay? While the rest of the world dances to their tune. Anyway, keep going.
You to admit when you lose and accept it and fight.
I guess there's research. There's research in America too. There's research as well. There is research. There is like technological innovation. It's not nothing. It's not nothing. It's not nothing. I shouldn't minimize it that much. It's not production though. It's not like making widgets. It's not making military equipment. It's not making things. It's financial might and it's technological advancement. Okay.
Live to fight another day. And I don't get that vibe from that group. Like if that guy that Hasan endorsed loses, Hasan will claim everything except that he he didn't run as good of a campaign as he should have.
Well, I do want to say on the last point, the deck is stacked against people that are not in the majority, but that's the reality of politics. And if you're unable to navigate that, if like, you know, people say, oh, all the candidates dropped out and that made Bernie Sanders lose after Super Tuesday. It's like, okay, well, what was going to happen if you had one? And all the candidates say, well, I don't want to pass your policy, right? Like that's part of working in politics. So I don't.
Hold on. It's the idea that it's fair. I think leftists do have to reckon or do have to understand that it's not ever going to be fair. You will have to be overwhelming. If you want even not even like leftism, like socialism or something, if you just want even populists to win, like Plattner, I don't know if Plattner is like a truly dyed-in-the-wool socialist of any kind. Seems very much.
He kind of comes across that way to me. He kind of comes across to me like someone who was more radicalized in a kind of nihilistic or maybe even right-wing sense, you know, like a decade ago. And then something happened and I don't know, maybe it was his media died online. It was probably his media died online, but he seems to have shifted and now he's kind of like more extreme in the other direction. I do genuinely think he's not putting on a show. I do genuinely think that he was radicalized to the left at some point. Bit of a horseshoe situation there.
More like a populist, like sort of a Cenk Uygur type of populist, okay? But if you want to win, you want your candidates, they need to be overwhelming. It can't be like, oh, we're running.
He resembles a ton of people, honestly. I don't know how widespread that is in terms of like the sheer number of people that in this country that were once radicalized to the right, but then became radicalized to the left. I don't know how common that is. I don't even know if we have a way to quantify that. I'm not sure that there have been any polls that dove into that question. You know, it's probably some, but I don't know if it's a lot of people. I don't know if it describes like a significant percentage of the country. Isn't Hasan a good alternative to Fuentes? These folks are similar motion. They have similar motion. I mean, listen, I would rather someone be a Hasan fan than a Fuentes fan. I mean, I guess you're right on paper that Hasan is a good alternative. Well, I mean, he's a preferable alternative to Fuentes, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's a good alternative to Fuentes.
A very close campaign until the last moment, because every single coin flip you're going to do at the end, where money goes, where decision making on like on any sort of regulation goes, where endorsements go last minute, where endorsements could flip last minute, every single one of those coin flips that seem like a coin flip scenario is going to go against you, and you're going to get destroyed by them. Okay, you're going to lose because of them, and just get ready, because not only that, but if you win these primaries, get ready for the Hutch types, okay? Whether I'm not sure if Hutch misspoke or what happened there, but with the Hutch types, okay?
I did.
Get ready in November for these people to work against you, the way they worked against Mamdani, okay? Get ready for that. It's gonna happen. That's why you got to be overwhelming, because you aren't gonna get.
This is kind of self-defeating logic, because I definitely did not work against Mamdani.
Blue no matter who. Blue no matter who is them trying to break you into following whatever they want. But at the same time, you should vote for Democrats over Republicans, especially until the Republican Party has some major schism or change.
Can we hang on a minute? Can we just listen to that? Everybody, listen, I need everyone to focus up. Hey, I need you guys to focus up. Where are the lurkers at? We need to just listen to what he just said, because that feels like a crazy, massive contradiction, what he just said.
Because you aren't going to get blue no matter who. Blue no matter who is them trying to break you into following whatever they want.
Blue no matter who is them trying to break you into following whatever they want. ... And then he immediately follows it up with.
But at the same time, you should vote for Democrats over Republicans, especially until the Republican Party has some major schism or change. Republicans are evil. But the blue...
Congratulations, my good sir. You have just stumbled upon the exceedingly simple logic of blue no matter who. That's why we say blue no matter who. Because the Republicans are genuinely that fucking bad. They are so fucking bad. We are so past the point where it's acceptable to elect even a single Republican at any level of government. And it wasn't always like that, to be honest with you. It wasn't always like that. The stakes were not always this high in terms of a Democrat winning a race versus a Republican winning a race. The whole party, the whole Republican Party has become so fucking compromised that is genuinely dangerous. Therefore, you should vote for the Democrat on the top of the ticket and every Democrat down ballot on every election that you could possibly vote in. That is the logic of blue no matter who. It's not we want to pound the electorate into submission so they don't ask for more things. It's not that. It isn't that. We can see Democrats at the state level all over the country that are responding to the base's desires, like actually delivering a legislative agenda that responds to what they're asking for. We are seeing that aggressively happening in Virginia right now. Spanberger is like, these bills that she's signing, I mean, it's just been dozens of really consequential bills. She raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This might seem like something that's not a big deal, but I fucking love to see it. She signed a law ending the tax exemption status for the United Daughters of the Confederacy and other Confederate groups. Got rid of their tax exempt status. Fuck those guys. It is now illegal for employers to access employee wage history in Virginia. This is expected to raise wages, as employers will no longer be able to use worker salary history against them. And they just announced yesterday paid family and medical leave. And this is like not fucking around paid leave. They are paying people 80% of their salary for 12 weeks of paid leave. And then we don't need to get into it because we've gotten into it so many times, but Joe Biden himself moved to the left on so many issues after he won the presidency. So we were pushing blue no matter who in 2020, but then what did Biden do when he was elected? We didn't tell people to stop asking him for things. That's not what it's about. It's just literally about the fact that the Republican Party are so compromised right now. They're so bad. They're so fucking bad right now that we don't have a choice. And in a lot of ways, it makes things kind of easy. You can focus on other things. Like, you don't need to like spend a great deal of time worrying about who should I vote for. Like, the answer to that is obvious. So then the question becomes, where do your efforts go? And your efforts should go to like pressuring the politicians that you helped elect to deliver on policies that you think would be good. That's where your efforts should be going. I'm saying the opposite of that. Don't just become complacent and just like take whatever they get. Like, push the Democrats to do more things. Yes. Help elect Democrats and then push them to do more things so that the outcomes are better. Yes. Like, this is the fucking formula. It's not about submission. It's not about fealty. It's not about allegiance, loyalty. If the Democratic Party became a different party tomorrow and wanted to call themselves a different name, I don't give a fuck. I have no ties. I have no loyalty to any single politician. And the moment a politician has outlived their usefulness and there's a better alternative in the Democratic Party, I'm going to push for that alternative. I don't think that people should become like attached emotionally to politicians in that way. Matt with 5 Canadian lurking from Canada, and we don't claim this guy, but you do though. He is your problem. You did produce him. Now, in fairness to you, you also produced Justin Bieber. And I don't care how you feel about his older music. Some of his new music, pretty good. Can we just be honest with ourselves? His Coachella set was very emotional.
no matter who stuff broadly is not something they're saying like we're going to support blue no matter who. It's saying, well, we'll talk to you, but you have to support our candidates after you lose. No matter what happens, no matter how badly we rap you, you have to support our candidates. That's what they're trying to say to you, okay? All right.
I don't think that's unfair to call out, but that's a frustration that you can air and then figure out a way to work in the system, because you can't just, you bitch about that every time and then realize that, nothing's going to change. You're never going to get elected if you can't work with the people that aren't as progressive as you.
Let me ask Pisco. I'm actually curious what you think about this. If Hasan's guy doesn't win, do you think Hasan will say, well, we didn't run as good of a campaign, we could have done better? Or will he start blaming?
No, but hold on. The gonna happen. Pisco should answer this question by saying, wait, if things do flip that don't lean into like this being a fair thing where it's just a battle of ideas, if there's some kind of rap going on, or if there's like massive shifts in capital to advertise against Syed and attack him, do you think they shouldn't point that out? Do you think it should be incumbent on them to let themselves get and then roll over and let you and show them collectively show you their belly? You have to ask that question, because I do believe that's broadly what and if that's the agreement, then just come to the agreement, right? Basically we're going to do everything we can to stop you, including some stuff that seems to be against our principles. And we still want you to vote for us in the general election. That's how you should hear this trade. Okay? And I think you should be willing to make that trade. It's okay, I know it's not going to be fair. I know it's uphill. And you can point it out, but you got to be a little careful about how you point it out after, is what they're looking for. Anyway.
Oh, I didn't even look at these comments. I see Hutch's oafish mug. And I click. You know what? Some call that motion. Some might call that motion. The kernel of truth that Hutch is alluding to, the Russiagate hoax, was entirely proven Israeli election interference and meddling. What? JSTLK, if you're worried about the warning efficacy and relevance of liberal democracy in a global status quo that's slowly buckling under the weight of metastatic capital, have I got an ideology for you? Hutch, I just can't anymore with you, dude. I just can't. Just stop it. He doesn't know his mouth from his anus. Really can't stand his shit anymore. All of these guys act like we have ever gotten to see how a progressive would perform in a general election. Like, we know for sure how Clinton and Harris would perform against Trump. We don't know how Bernie or Warren would have done. Yes, there are more interesting candidates now, and Liz Warren has said some weird shit in the past few years. But I'm so sick of this point of view not being challenged. The DNC keeps telling us that the lame centrist is the strategy, and that strategy keeps failing, while they court the microscopic, if not just imaginary, independent voters. Independent voters, we have numbers. We know that as independent voters, registered independents are, I think, between 40 and 45% of the electorate. A full third of the country is not interested enough by either candidate to bother voting. Okay.
Anyway, we continue.
And say it was rigged and all this.
No, but I think that has more to do with the personality type.
Hold on. Again, I'm gonna go back here. We're gonna listen again to IRI ask this question, but I do want to answer this question or comment on this real quick. The mainstream Hasan discourse is the rap attempt, just so they're just so disconnected that its effectiveness wrong. They got its effectiveness wrong. Sure, yes, but I'm telling you it will get worse. I'm telling you, if El Sayed were to win in Michigan, you can fully expect Michigan Democrats to endorse the Republican candidate.
Okay. All right. Okay. When has this ever happened? Why would we fully expect it? The only reason we would fully expect something like that is if it's happened in the past. So when has this happened where, a progressive wins a primary and then the Democrats from that state endorse the Republican? When has that literally ever happened?
You can fully expect powerful political brokers in Michigan to support the Republican candidate. You can expect some federal politicians to withhold their endorsement. You expect this. It will happen, okay? I'm telling you, even in the general election, it will not be blue no matter who if El Sayed wins. I'm very skeptical to think it'll even be blue no matter who with Plattner. And I think Plattner, by virtue of not directly campaigning with Hasan, he's probably a little less extreme. Although he's also got the Nazi tattoo thing, so it's hard to say. So just expect that. That is going to happen, okay? The rap, he's not done. It will continue. You got to push through it. You got to win through it.
We didn't run as good of a campaign. We could have done better. Or will he start blaming and say it was rigged and all this?
No, but I think that has more to do with like the personality type of Hasan than it does of any rational.
But that's why I want him out of our politics, because to me that's no better than Trump saying, I didn't lose the election; it was stolen from me.
Wait,
I want Trump out of our politics, and I want the question isn't like what in a perfect world would Hasan be in our politics or out of our politics. In some ways, right? Like we can't effectuate the deplatforming or the removal of Hasan from the democratic interactions. Like that's not something we have the power to do. So the question becomes like, what are we analyzing? Who are we analyzing? So when we say they think X, they think Y, I might agree with you if they includes the.
Why won't they release the autopsy? The answer to that is basically in the lobbying, right? Look at the Third Way article. That's the answer to that. I'm telling you, you have to know this in your heart, that your politics are winning. They are reaching the average person far better. They being Democrats here, obviously. Don't joke around, guys. This is the case, right? They are scared of this type of politics. They are terrified of it. That's why they won't release the autopsy, right? That's why when we went into that election, and again, I think
Okay. What I was saying was I am sympathetic to the fact that, or to the suggestion that releasing the autopsy would just end up fomenting more division at a time when the party needs unity. Like, I think that that's a completely defensible position to have. The problem is that before they even did the autopsy, they committed to releasing it. And then they decided after the fact that they were not going to release it. That's an issue because it creates suspicion and it allows anyone who has a thing that they're advocating for, any one of them can claim, well, the reason that they're not releasing the autopsy is because they don't want other people to know that actually like they need to meet our demands or something like that. Certainly we're seeing that from the pro-Palestinian online left. Like they're fully convinced that the autopsy basically would point the finger at the Gaza policy under Biden. And the way that Kamala campaigned on Gaza, they genuinely believe that that's like the reason why they suspect, like in the autopsy, that's what it says. I think what's more likely is that in the autopsy, there's a ton of different issues. There's also things like on the back end, like funding issues that I'm just completely unfamiliar with when it comes to, party politics, like how you spend money efficiently. Where you allocate this much versus that much. And like, so there's all kinds of logistical things that I have no idea how that works. Anyways, I assume that in the autopsy, there's like 50 different problems that they point to as like ways that there were, ways that there were shortcomings in Kamala's campaign. I wouldn't have cared if they did the autopsy and never released it. And I think it was politically stupid for them to say, hey, we're going to do this autopsy and we're going to be transparent. And then after it would be like, psych, we're not going to release it. That's just really bad politics, I think.
My decision to move away from politics was a huge mistake in retrospect. I think if I'd been writing my ideas down from that election, because the people who watch the stream know, but I was saying it's the economy. The economy's bad. You guys are going to lose on the economy. And everybody hated that idea. Whenever I brought it up, people would push back. They'd be so angry about me saying it. And it's
who pushed back against that? I mean, that's just such a no-brainer.
So clear that that's everything. That was everything in that election.
Yeah.
That people thought Trump would be better. Now, Trump wouldn't be better. Trump was dog. Trump's awful. But it's about the economy again. And it's the macro direction of the economy, how it is not working for the average person in America and Canada and the entire world right now. And that conversation has to be had. And the people who talk about that conversation, the people who have that conversation will reap benefits. Okay? Biden is so good at the economy and the most progressive president ever and totally cogent and electable, don't you know? Yeah, exactly. He's cost 5 instead of 1. I'm voting Trump.
2 of those things were correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Biden was the best on the economy ever, but, in my lifetime.
I regret not continuing because I feel like I was vindicated on a lot of the way I viewed things. I regret not writing stuff down and doing more politics, having more VODs out about it.
These kind of like dead ender lefties that we see online, but they also includes the 30% or whoever the voter base is that's going to vote for al-Sayed. And most of them, I think, are not like some of their thought leaders or some of the people who who call us names online. So I just think that we need to be very careful about who we're analyzing there.
Well, the process of deciding whether or not
Hasan is a viable kind of asset for the Democratic Party, that's essentially democratized. Like the voters will decide that, really. Like if he runs the board and like all of his endorsed candidates do really well, then he's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter what third way thinks. Like it doesn't matter like what kind of input they get.
That's what I mean. Yeah. What I mean to say is, yeah, he might win, and we have to like, or when I say he, Al Sayed might win, and it's going to be our job to support that candidate. And I think that we should. And I don't think that we should like, conflate everyone who we don't like and everyone who is with the people that those people support. Or when I say he, Al Sayed might win, and it's going to be our job to support that candidate. And I think that we should. And I don't think that we should like, conflate everyone who we don't like and everyone who is bad faith with the people that those people support.
I got to say, Pisco, I think you're wrong. Like I think you said that instinct to kind of blame external forces, you said you chalked it up to like Hasan's personality. I don't think that's true. I think this is endemic to that movement. I mean, when have you ever seen a more kind of far lefty candidate?
I'm just telling you, I understand, like, they're trying to say you shouldn't complain about it.
No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. If you want to bring up campaign finance stuff, that's completely appropriate. That's fine. Money has an influence in politics. Most Americans don't like that. That's fine. That's not the issue. When there's zero internal critique and the extent of your analysis of an electoral loss is just simply blaming donors in the establishment, if there is zero consideration to messaging, candidate quality, issues, policies, maybe those things didn't line up with the constituency, the electorate of that race in the ways that they should. Maybe here are ways that maybe we should adjust the next time. Then that's fine. Like that's fine. And then if you bring up campaign finance and the corrupt influence of money in politics, when you talk about it like in concert with those other things, that's fine. But if all you're doing is externalizing your losses every single time, then you're not going to change your strategy. And if you don't change your strategy, you're not going to be able to take on the money. You know, the reason why some candidates win in spite of massive disparities in campaign funding is because they have such an effective message and they're such an effective messenger. You know, Mamdani is a good example of just like, he's a bit of a diamond in how like charismatic and intelligent and savvy and handsome and well-spoken. Like he's a rare kind of politician in terms of how fucking slick he is. And he was able to use that slickness along with policies that were really resonating with the electorate, framed in a particular way, presented in a particular way. And he was able to beat the money. He was able to raise his national profile. He was able to go from relative obscurity to beating a political dynasty. Donald Trump, you know, the reason he was able to beat the money, I mean, he was outspent 3-1, 4-1 in both races in 2016 and 2024. I don't know what the disparity looked like in 2020. It might have been different, but he was able to do that because of certain like things that, for certain ways that he ran his campaign, certain things that he chose to focus on. You guys understand what I'm saying?
This isn't going to work. It's actually an extension of the other stuff. I think I would appreciate lefties framing the complaints correctly. Then yeah, we're like, I think I have the right tone. You have to be overwhelming. Every little thing that can go wrong will go wrong for you. It's like you're basically going to the Olympics in China.
McMitty, did I get you? I'm so sorry. I don't think I got you for this. For $10. My home city lost a huge legal fight with California. They were in for years. I went through a lot of the dockets, and yeah, there's a lot of deception and defiance in state housing mandates. It's a real fight. I don't know the back end of housing stuff. All I know is that I follow a lot of Yimbys on Twitter, and they fucking do not like local governments. They fucking hate local governments, like the Yimby movement.
And you're like trying to win in figure skating against Chinese figure skaters. It's like, listen, unless you are transcendental, you are going to lose. Every tiny thing that will go against you can go against you, will go against you. You could imagine it's Russia too if you really like China, okay? Every single thing will go against you. Every little ticky-tack thing they can do will go against you. So you have to be overwhelming. And if you're not overwhelming, you do have to swallow your pride a little bit and vote for their candidate, even if they rat you. You have to vote Democrat, even if they rat you, because it is consequential. The managed decline is better than whatever the Republicans are offering. Okay, is until there's a insane change.
He's conflating rat fucking with just, you know, like building a winning coalition. Like I you know, in this kind of framing, progressives can't ever lose fairly. They can only be rat fucked. Like that's the only way that they lose. But he thinks that just normal politics is rat fucking. Like it's the person who loses that determines whether or not they were rat fucked.
To the Republican side, they're like off the ballot entirely for you. That's how everybody should be messaging here, in my opinion.
Candidate, a left populist candidate, lose an election.
So he wants to validate the leftist delusion that they're unfairly persecuted, but still encourage people to vote blue no matter who. But he's saying like, just, I guess it's you gotta feed into their delusion that they're these poor, you know, downtrodden, persecuted, rat fucked political movement.
And then not blame the donors, the system, you know, the media.
Wait,
like
I got to shift there a little. What did we blame for Kamala's loss? Was it Kamala?
We don't rewrite.
Totally. Oh my God. Hutch is destroyed. Hutch is destroyed. Hutch is...
Let me finish what I'm about to say before you launch into man, Jesus. His Hutch hatred is quite intense.
Wrecked. Hutch is wrecked.
What did we blame for Kamala's loss?
Hutch is destroyed. We love Soy Pill again. We've gone back and forth on Soy Pill on this stream.
I mean, Soy Pill is just, I love Soy Pill. I love that fat ass of his, but he's just wrong about this. Liberals spend so much time. It's our favorite pastime. When liberal candidates win big, high profile elections, there are so many, it's like, listen, it's not that, like, you do have some of the cringe stuff that happens in the inverse, where I have seen prominent Democrats and prominent liberals basically like blame everything on, you know, the far left. Like that happens. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but there's also just a shitload of people that will spend months like trashing the campaign and unpacking dozens of reasons for why the campaign failed. So there's just way more per capita, like 100 times more internal critique that happens within liberal spaces when a liberal candidate loses, as opposed to the complete abject lack of internal critique when the progressive candidates lose.
Okay, we loved him, then we hated him, now we love him again. All right, let's go.
Don't rewrite history on this one. Were you on the podcast when
he knows he's so caught? He knows he's so caught, and he's doing the exact same thing. I swear to God, if Hutch does the same excuses that they would do, what am I not supposed to say?
The difference is I could probably rattle off like 10 things that Kamala did that I think hurt her campaign. That is the fault of no one else. You know, there are things that are very relevant, like the fact that the macroeconomic trends did not favor incumbent parties in 2024. That's real. That happened. There's the fact that she only had 107 days to campaign, compared with Donald Trump, who had been campaigning basically for the prior 2.5 years. That is like a very strong headwind that she faced. The fact that she inherited Biden's baggage. Biden was an unpopular incumbent president, and she was the vice president. She inherited that. Like, that's relevant. But also, she very negligently, I would say, ignored the alternative media space. So it's not that she ignored it entirely. She did go on like a few podcasts, but I don't think her, and I don't think the Democratic Party broadly, really understood by 2024 just how important that space was. And so I think that that's like a systemic problem within the Democratic Party. And I would argue that's like the number one problem. I think it gets oversimplified when you say stuff like the big problem was she didn't go on Rogan. Well, you know, that was like an issue, but you know, some of that was Rogan playing some weird games in the background and, you know, like not making any effort to actually host her. It sounds like her campaign was actually actively working with Rogan to try to make an appearance happen. And it sounds like he kind of rat fucked them a little bit. But then also, I mean, like that's the big problem. The fact that she, you know, felt too beholden to Biden,
I would say. The fact that she felt the loyalty to Biden. And so, you know, she prioritized, I think, protecting Biden's legacy over saying what needed to be said during an election year in order to win. Like the fact that she took such extraordinary effort to, you know, go out of her way to not say that Biden did anything wrong. Like, you know, like when she's asked, you know, what would you do differently? And she's just like, oh, nothing. It was basically just like perfect. You know, that's not going to work with an electorate that, you know, has like a 40% approval rating for Biden. You know, there's a lot of people that were dissatisfied with Biden's whole perspective, or Biden's performance with as president, or the fact that she was more aggressive on more kind of populist-y framing in the beginning of her campaign. You know, she hit the ground running. Like took her like 10 days to come out with a policy page or something like that, or maybe a little bit, maybe it was a couple of weeks, I'm not sure. But she, you know, she announces some of her policies. The very first policy that she announces was like a anti-price gouging effort, which was consequently, I think, like the most popular policy that she proposed. But she allowed some really bad influences to come into her campaign and dissuade her from leaning into that policy, which that was a really big mistake. I would say she was like quite stiff in long form settings. So that was like not necessarily a weakness of her campaign, but more a weakness of her as a candidate. So like she did do some long form content, but you know, I'm sympathetic because that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure for someone to you know, I don't think she expected to be handed the fucking the candidacy in that kind of way. You know, and so like well, that's the game. That's what it is to be a politician. Like you have to be ready for that kind of stress. And it looked like when she sat down and actually had these interviews, she looked stressed. You know, you could feel that stress. And so that I think didn't help her. And I think that she'll probably be better this time around because it's just completely different circumstances. She can run a campaign on her own terms, and you know, and I don't think we're going to see her as like quite as, I think you're going to see a more aggressive version of her. I think you're going to see a more assertive version of her. I think you're going to see a more comfortable version of her during this campaign. You could argue the fact that she was anointed. You could argue that maybe that hurt her a little bit. That's more on the margins. I tend to think that it was obvious that if we had a miniature primary, she would have won. I think she obviously would have won just because of name recognition alone. And so you could say that Biden just sped up the process and, you know, like, hey, let's just get to it and give her more time to campaign. That's not like an easy situation. I don't know what side I land on that. Like maybe it would have been better to have like a symbolic mini primary. Like maybe that would have given it more legitimacy. Because that does seem to be like a vector of attack against her, was this idea that she was anointed. And even though the Democratic Party voter base like overwhelmingly approved of the fact that she got the nomination, it was like a few days after she got the nomination, like 95% of the party supported her being the candidate. So it wasn't an issue with like the Democratic voter base for the most part. All elite memes with $20. The problem is lefty critiques don't stick in this media environment while liberal critiques are blown up and or distorted. Lib shows do internal critique and debate. Lefty shows affirm their biases. It's unilateral disarmament. Well, I mean, I don't want to do what they do. I think internal critique is like, I don't know if that's what you're suggesting, but I don't want to do what they do. I think internal critique is very necessary for political movements. It's so necessary because these are dynamic, fluid things. Like the right messaging and the right campaign strategy can change drastically just in 1 year. You know, like in 1 year, the vast electorate might be in a completely different place than the year prior. And so if you want to be adaptable and if you want to actually run effective campaigns, you need to constantly do like internal critique. All elite memes with $20. I think I just read that. What are some of the other ones? I mean, some people think that her campaigning with Liz Cheney hurt her campaign, and I just completely reject this. I just don't think that this was something that swayed anybody. This is the third time where he's like launching into this, I don't know what this is, this self-righteous rant about how like Soypill totally fucking dunked on me. But the point I'm making is like just true. It is just objectively true that you see 1,000 times more internal critique from liberals after a liberal candidate loses. And you basically see zero internal critique from progressives. It's basically zero. After Bernie lost in 2020, if I go back and if I look at Majority Report, Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, Hasan Piker, Mike from PA, like all that whole ecosystem, am I going to find a single person talking about Bernie's struggle with black voters and like identifying that as a real vulnerability for the campaign? Did a single one of them make that point? You would, yes. Who said this? Show me. I want to see a single video from those guys like talking about like doing an internal critique. They all framed it as the establishment rat fucking Bernie. Every single one of them did that. Donors, the system, you know, the media.
Wait,
like
I got to shift there a little. What did we blame for Kamala's loss? Was it Kamala?
We don't rewrite.
Totally. Oh my God. Hutch is destroyed. Hutch is destroyed. Hutch is wrecked. Hutch is wrecked.
What did we blame for Kamala's loss?
Hutch is destroyed. We love Soy Pill again. We've gone back and forth on Soy Pill on this stream, okay? We loved him, then we hated him. Now we love him again, all right? Let's go.
Don't rewrite history on this one. Were you on the podcast when
He knows he's so caught. He knows he's so caught, and he's doing the exact same thing. I swear to God, if
is he going to hit us with another incorrect prediction?
Hutch does the same excuses that they would do. Oh, what am I not supposed to say the truth? That's crazy.
Yep. This is like the 10th time he's done this. He needs to stop doing this. Like pre-watch the videos, man. All you got to do is just pre-watch the videos and you don't need to worry about this. Then you can try to predict things and then, you know, like make it look like you predicted the thing.
Kamala?
We don't rewrite.
Face of like a child with his cookie caught in the cookie jar. Literally, this is when you catch your like 4-year-old brother with his hand in the cookie jar, and he like, you know, you're not supposed to do that, and he like looks at you and smiles, like he knows he just got caught. He's doing something wrong. He knows it. You got him.
He has the wrong read of like everything, man.
You got him. Okay. Soy Pill, he knows he got you. They got you, okay?
Rewrite history on this one. Were you on the podcast when she lost? I mean, we talked about her failings as a candidate for months, you know.
Okay,
like,
but I just want to say, this is, you know.
And then it's just the avatar with the big eyes, like just not saying anything. Is he going to say this thing? And then he doesn't say that. And then he's just like has nothing to say. It's just a silence, just fucking silence here.
We do this too.
Hutch, if we look at your tweets, are we going to find you blaming Kamala Harris for her losses most of the time? Or am I going to...
You're definitely going to find tweets of me talking about the ways that her campaign didn't go well.
To see you going after lefties all over Twitter all the frickin' time, trying to hit them on, oh, you refuse to endorse, you refuse to support her, you refuse... Come on, man. Just be serious. Just be real, dog. Sick Monkey Chamber, thank you for the tweet.
I mean, I definitely fight with lefties, but I never... In fact, I specifically did the opposite. I specifically said, when the race was like... When the margins were... like 2024, the margins were bigger than the margins in 2016 and 2020. When it's really tight margins, you can kind of blame any single like group that contributed to Hillary Clinton's loss. Like you can blame the Bernie bros, and you can blame the people that abstained, and you can blame, you know, like whatever. You can break it down by like demographics, and each one of them you can blame because the margins were just so fucking close, and it was even closer in 2020. Margins were a little bit bigger in 2024, and so, you know, and then you look at like the polling after the fact, and Kamala's problem was not a turnout problem. Among the people that didn't turn out, Donald Trump was even more popular with them. So if turnout had been higher, she would have lost by more. So that wasn't the issue either. So you can't, like, you just mathematically could not blame the lefties. And I specifically said that all the time. Like I would go out of my way to say, like, I am not blaming it, but like they contributed to her loss, but they're not to blame for her loss, like singularly.
20 months. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It was not close in 2020. Matter of fact, it was actually closer in 2020. That's not true. I mean, in terms of raw electoral vote, like electoral votes, like no, but as far as the margins, my understanding is that in 2016, it was the difference of
80,000 votes across 3 swing states. And I think those states were Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. If 80,000 people across those states had voted for Hillary instead of Trump, then she would have won. The blue wall would have held and she would have won. In 2020, it was actually a closer margin. It was actually 40,000 people across 3 states. And I don't know if it was the blue wall or if Arizona and Georgia were involved. I don't really remember. But that was way closer. And then in 2024, I think it was like 155,000 people across the blue wall states. So yeah, but again, turnout was not Kamala's problem. Like, the math shows that if turnout would have been higher, that she would have lost by more, by a bigger margin.
Do this too.
That's
it's
not
like, all right,
true.
it was the economy. She didn't have enough time, and that's true. But I don't know. We can't just pretend like this is like a specific coalition of lefties that do that. You know?
I don't agree. I think like when liberal candidates lose, you do see way more often endless commentary about all the ways that they could have run better campaigns.
Hutch is actually a Bernie bro, except for lefties, right? Hutch is like talking about how over Kamala got, and he's
I'm specifically not talking about that. And man, he really just hears what he wants to hear. He's got his little translator. Some people in this world, they have like such intense internal biases that they like their mind translates the words that they're listening to into something else entirely. Because he's hitting me for something I never even said here. Campaign.
Hutch is actually a Bernie bro, except for lefties, right? Hutch is like talking about how over Kamala got, and he's like never gonna let it go. He's gonna hold on to it for like.
When am I talking about that? What are you talking about?
With how over Kamala was by the left, he's literally just a Bernie bro, but he's a liberal Bernie bro. Unironically, like he's just sitting here being like, they ruined it. They ruined everything.
There are such a thing as like liberal Bernie bros. I follow like a few of them, and it's just nothing but like that. I do follow some people that genuinely blame like everything on the left, like blame electoral losses on the left. Those people exist, but that has never been me. I mean, I have my critiques of the left, and I think they contribute to Democrats doing worse in elections, but I'd like to think I have a more nuanced take of things.
Everything. I'll never trust them again. Right? He's just Cenk. He's just a different flavor of Cenk right now. He's about to form injustice Democrats, okay?
Yes. You know, there was some kind of like blaming Russia in 2016, and you know, there was honestly like some kernel of truth to that.
How much does the honesty matter? If he even gets near, and I'd say this is basically it. If you get near, well, telling the truth shouldn't be a problem. Then you've lost every single argument about these people.
Don't say that though. Your prediction is wrong again. We have another wrong prediction.
Endorsing your candidates and not being mad about Gaza. You've lost them all. And I understand that that's the normal human reaction, right? What am I not supposed to complain about this?
But, you know, there was also a lot of conversations about her neglecting like the Rust Belt.
Also a lot of blaming Comey though. And Comey deserves some blame there. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, I understand that.
I'm not in the wait. Let me just clarify. External forces matter. If you only blame those every single time, you lack internal critique. But I don't think this is like an exclusive thing to the left. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, obviously it exists on the right too. And so the question is like, are liberals above that? Are liberals above COPE and seeing that things are unfair? And the answer is no, we're not above that. Whether that's in terms of the Electoral College and if that's in terms of Comey, that's not to say that we are just as like lack the same set of lack of self-awareness as some people who are on the farthest left or whatever. But I just don't know what the.
I'm back. Dude, I just realized as I walked away,
Is he going to do another inaccurate prediction?
You know what this is?
I don't think this is like an exclusive thing to the left.
Soy
That's
pill?
all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't think this is an exclusive thing to the left. I think this is the kilotonics mind control.
Oh my God.
Working its magic. This is the Kilo Cabal has come into Soy Pill's DMs and made unquestionably better arguments than anybody else. And Soy Pill has slowly absorbed these arguments through Kilo, and he's ready to now fight on the side of truth and justice, okay? Thank you so much, Kilo, for teaching Soy Pill the way. on behalf of me personally,
I don't know why he is like, he seemingly is like mocking the idea that this Kilo person was behind the scenes making efforts to, you know, influence the discourse, because I think Soypill even said that Kilo did in fact reach out to him and try to send him notes or whatever.
as I sent you out to do, as was your mission. Thank you, Kilo. I appreciate it. Soypill, I didn't have enough faith. I don't
understand the joke. I don't understand what's funny about this. Like, it happened. It's not something that, you know, it literally happened, right?
enough faith in you or Kilo, okay?
Yeah, obviously it exists on the right too. And so the question is, like, are liberals above that? Are liberals above COPE and seeing that things are unfair? And the answer is no, we're not above that. Whether that's in terms of the Electoral College and if that's in terms of Comey, that's not to say that we are just as like lack the same set of lack of self-awareness as some people who are on the farthest left or whatever. But I just don't know what the analysis is. It's like they are coping in a way that we never would.
No, it's the rate of COPE. It's 100% COPE in their spaces, zero internal critique versus, I don't know, some percentage of COPE in liberal spaces and a lot of internal critique. It's just very different in the way that they react to election losses. Analysis is that they're like, my point is like that Kilotonic's loser confidently posted about how some Act Blue conspiracy, and he literally just didn't understand the basic forms. He deleted his effort post and blocked me. Interesting. The reason why I want them to spectacularly fail, and while at the same time Mamdani succeeds in his role as mayor, is because I want them to have to be incentivized to like look to him to model their future political strategy. Because right now what they're doing is basically anyone outside of their politics are, you know, like adversaries, even within the Democratic Party. And, you know, to be fair, that goes both ways. Obviously, like there's a lot of jabs at, you know, the left from liberals, but they are, and when they lose, they don't, to Soypill's point, like, or to my point that I guess he was trying to refute, is they seem incapable of internal critique. Like they don't, you know, I never saw any discussions about Bernie's. Why is he putting up the picture of Hasan and struggles with particular, bro, like you have to update your priors. Mamdani distanced himself from Hasan. Demographics, like that almost like that never came up. It was all, you know, it's still to this day, 2016 and 2020, that entire like ecosystem blame like the establishment for Bernie's loss. And they don't ask why he still.
I will say this is not
Bernie losing that primary is entirely on name recognition. There's a reason they had to coalesce against Bernie to win in the second primary in 2020.
Why is this improper? I don't know. It's not entirely on name recognition, but he had a name recognition disadvantage versus Hillary Clinton for sure. Less so with Biden, but that's a failure. Like it's the candidate's job to raise their name recognition. That's what you have to do. But he seems to think like, oh, the only reason he lost is because, you know, he didn't win on probably the most important thing. It's like the candidate's job is to raise their name recognition. Like that's like a big, especially for president. That it's especially the case for president.
And yeah, there's a reason they had to coalesce behind a candidate, right? They were getting blown the out.
Again, he's just describing normal politics. Like, if your big flex about Bernie is that he did really good when the field was very split, you're sort of unintentionally highlighting his biggest failure. That's not a strength. Like, that's not a flex to say, well, my preferred candidate did way better when there were 13 candidates still in the race. Okay, well, if you want to win, you need to be the candidate that does better when there's 2 people in the race. That's how you win elections. Who cares about split fields? The field was never going to stay split, of course.
And then 2024, they didn't have to worry about it because they could just run. I'm honest to goodness. At this point, there's a tiny part, the conspiratorial part of me wonders, in the back of my head, how much was Biden running again about not having an open primary? A little part of me wonders that, like, hey, we don't really want to take the pulse on this. We know he's not fit, but we don't want to take the pulse on it because we don't like where the pulse is at. There's like a little tiny part of me. I wonder if it wasn't a part of, I don't think it would have been a part of Joe Biden's calculus.
We did have an open primary. We did. It's just incumbents always have an insane advantage. It is like
extremely rare in US history, as I understand, extremely rare for there to be a primary challenger to that like unseats the incumbent in between, like after the incumbent has a first term in office. Like you still have the primary process, and we did. It's just Biden was so dominant in that primary process that he didn't have to do any debates or anything like that. He didn't have to campaign, basically. He just, he just coasted. You had primary challengers from RFK Jr. and that other guy, what's his name? Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson and Cenk. They tried to take him on, and we had primary contests and we had caucuses, and they lost overwhelmingly. But that's not like because the DNC decided to not have an open primary. That's not at all what happened.
I think in terms of how things move behind the scenes, in terms of like power brokers and stuff, who's going to get...
I'm going to chalk it up to him being Canadian and him thinking that it would be normal for the incumbent running for a second term to agree to like debates against primary challengers that have no chance at beating him. This is just not a thing that happens. That's never been a thing. The incumbent always just cruises to the nomination for a second term.
Supported and what the decisions were made, right? A little part of me...
It's not conspiratorial. It's just like that is how the process always plays out.
Like, man, I bet some people were like, hey, we don't want an open primary. We don't want to see what the public wants right now. Hutch said the same today. There's a little conspiratorial part of me that wonders this.
As popular, because I didn't see this until
I said the same. What did I say today?
Very recently. But like there's a lot of people in like black communities talk about his inability to read.
The conspiracy theory is that Biden usurped the open primary to stop a more left candidate winning that would have won if Biden did not run. Well, this is just fucking ridiculous. It's fucking stupid.
Reach out and connect with a lot of these places in like South Carolina, and like how he just wasn't prepared for the...
Hey, but let's be real. We all watched the hot sauce. It's not like Hillary Clinton was a world beater in terms of reaching out in these communities. She just had massive name recognition.
She just had massive name recognition? That is the most important strength.
And realistically, in the black community, I'm almost positive that it was just her husband. Like literally her husband being an aspect of her campaign. Everybody's like, yeah, we like this guy. This guy's pretty cool. Hillary was not reaching out to these people.
I don't think that's true. She had a lot of support from the black community. From black voters. She had more black voters than Biden, and she had way more black voters than Kamala. She fucking crushed it with black voters. I assume it was also because she was a part of the cabinet for Barack Obama, and so she probably inherited a lot of that. Clinton entered the 2016 race with decades of visibility in black political life, largely due to her time as First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State. Many black voters had known her as a part of the Clinton political brand since the 90s, when Bill Clinton was often referred to, sometimes jokingly, sometimes seriously, as, quote, the first black president. Wait, what? This long familiarity helped her maintain high favorability. One poll in 2015 showed her with an 80% approval rating among African Americans. Her popularity also benefited from her close relationship or close association with Barack Obama. After serving as the Secretary of State, Clinton and Obama publicly reconciled after the contentious 2008 primary. Obama's visible support for her, such as the joint 60 Minutes interview and his strong endorsement, reinforced her credibility with black voters who had overwhelmingly supported him. Clinton spent years cultivating relationships with black churches, civil rights organizations, and black political leaders. During the 2016 campaign, she made a point of attending events hosted by the NAACP, the National Baptist Convention, and the National Association of Black Journalists, among others. So she did a lot of grassroots organizing as well, or grassroots campaigning, I suppose. Clinton's relationship with black voters wasn't without tension. Her past support for the 1994 crime bill and her 1996 Super Predators remark, which to me, that is like the most non-story ever. The whole Super Predators thing was so blown out of proportion. She was talking about like fucking people that were like actually doing tremendous damage in their communities. She was talking about like men that were engaged in like sex trafficking and pimping and gun violence and like dealing drugs, like hard drugs and stuff like that. Long-standing familiarity with the Clinton brand, strong ties to Obama, consistent present in black civic and religious institutions, high favorability among older black voters. Okay. So it's not, so yeah, she did inherit obviously a lot of name recognition from the Clinton administration. She was the first lady, obviously. And so everybody knew who she was, right?
It was just name recognition. And dude,
that's true. Bernie also voted for the 94 crime bill, and the Congressional Black Caucus endorsed the crime bill as well. Like, people judge the crime bill through the lens of the present, and they don't understand like the climate that existed back then. This was in a climate of like the LA riots and just skyrocketing violent crime in this country. There was so much pressure on politicians to do something about the rising crime rates. And that's why the crime bill exists. I mean, was it too punitive? Did it go too far? Yeah, there were some really bad outcomes that happened as a result of that bill. But the pressure that was put on politicians to react to that crime, that wasn't some manufactured thing. There was record high crime going on in this country in the 90s.
It gets a little crazy to me. It really is about name recognition.
Coalition building that you saw with Joe Biden and Jim Clyburn and that sort of stuff. So it definitely happens, but you're right. It's not super prevalent. Most people are, it's rigged, you know.
I think Joe Biden would be good at outreach. I think Joe Biden, when he's campaigning, could be somebody who could talk to black communities. That was Corn Pop story and everything. I think Joe Biden seems like a guy who could reach those communities. Hillary? Nah.
I mean, she did, though. She did make efforts to build relationships with national black leaders, and it seems as though black leaders at the local level and state level as well. So she was putting in the work to, like, you know, actually build those relationships.
Hillary got the vote because she was the wife of Bill Clinton. Not joking. In terms of the southern states where it was like a big
you don't think Biden got the vote because of his relationship with Barack Obama? You don't think that helped him as well?
Race split? And her obviously being in the Obama admin. Maybe more the Obama admin than anything.
Well, there you go.
DNC favored him. That's the only reason. His ideas are the most popular. So I know what you mean. There is a lot of
just to be clear, the DNC did favor certain candidates in 2016, certainly in 2016. So like, the question is, they did favor certain candidates in 2016, certainly in 2016.
He just has to like let the clip play for 2 seconds. How much you want to bet he's going to make another false prediction here?
So like,
Hutch doesn't think so. Hutch doesn't think the DNC favor.
Wrong again. Wrong again. He's been wrong literally every time, you guys.
Favored a certain candidate in 2016. The Democratic establishment absolutely did. They absolutely favored a candidate. Why are we pretending otherwise, man? It's silly. It's just silly.
We're not. Just let the clip play, for Christ's sakes.
Certainly 2016. So like,
the question is, they use that as like the only thing. Like, it's like, that's why. Right. That was the decision, not because he wasn't popular enough.
Yeah. The DNC is
any votes he did get would be largely via his rhetoric and policies, not because of his personality or his name recognition. Like, his policies and the politics he was running on spoke to people. They were going to be popular. They are popular now. And like, it's hard.
Why don't we see more Bernie candidates winning in primaries then? I just these confident assertions.
Not to look back and just go, yeah, this guy was right about a lot of stuff, right? The policies are popular now. It's not that he was wrong or his policies were bad. It's that he didn't have a name recognition and he was getting smeared as a socialist, communist, whatever. And those were the things that held him back. It's not like they're arguing, well, your policies aren't popular. Wrong. And as things get worse, you'll see it more and more.
They represent a political party. And to the extent, like, so what they did wrong in terms of like a breach of ethics was they violated a rule that was in their charter. They basically mandated impartiality from the chair, and it was the chair's responsibility to make sure that the staff were impartial as well. And that clearly wasn't the case. When you read the emails, you know, they make sure that their staff was impartial, like in their role at the DNC. Like, there was no rule. Of course, anyone who works at the DNC, they're not going to be like, what's the word? What's Spock called again? What's his race called again? The Ferengi, the Vulcans. They weren't like the DNC. It's not like you were hired and you agreed to these rules that were laid out in the charter. And that meant that you couldn't internally have like a preference for who you wanted to win. You just couldn't demonstrate that
preference, or you couldn't demonstrate that impartiality within your work at the DNC. And so just by the fact that you had email correspondence of people that were in the DNC, obviously showing a preference for Hillary Clinton, that alone was enough to violate that rule. And that is the thing that was like causing so much controversy. But did it impact the race? That's the question. Did their impartiality have, what did it amount to, like material support for Hillary Clinton? And did it amount to putting the thumb on the scale against Bernie Sanders? Did their preference, again, dated after Super Tuesday, after Hillary had already had that thing on lockdown, did their internal like correspondence that showed them having a preference for Hillary winning? But at that point, it's not even about preference. Like they knew she was going to win. That's the other thing too. It's like they knew she was going to win. And so like they were just kind of like talking openly about that. But technically they violated this one rule in their charter. Now you could say that they agreed to ratify these rules within their charter, not knowing that Bernie Sanders would, stay in the race intentionally beyond the point where he could plausibly win. That kind of throws a wrench into things. So, like, did they violate the rule? Sure. But I mean, can you blame them? And did it make any difference? So you agree that Dems showed bias, but you don't think that bias manifested in ways that impacted the race overall. If you can give me an example, just one example, like, because this is what I always hear in response. I always hear people, oh, you think that didn't make a difference? You really think that didn't make a difference? And I always ask the same thing. Just tell me how. How did the internal bias of DNC staffers amount to less votes for Bernie and more votes for Hillary? What actual impact did it make? How did this actually like help her win? Did she even need help winning? Is the point. Those emails.
No, we haven't done that yet.
Basically, every single one of the ones that were like very embarrassing and damning and showed that bias were written after Super Tuesday. And so in that context, you have to understand that, Hillary had already essentially locked that thing up, and Bernie decided to stay. He announced that he was, what do you mean? And why does it need to be explained? If the race is already over, then why does it matter if they showed internal bias? I'm going to stay into the race until the convention to try to, push her left on policy. And the media played up that race as though it was still like anyone's ball game, and it wasn't. And I think his support.
He did not play it up as anyone's ball game. In fact, the most consequential part of that election for the DNC was that I believe did they not abolish superdelegates after that, or change how superdelegates worked, that they wouldn't be counted until their endorsement was given? They changed somehow the way superdelegates work.
I don't understand why that's relevant to the analysis and why he's saying that in response to what I just said.
Because what happened was, and the argument was the whole time, that as long as the mainstream media is showing the superdelegate difference, it's going to seem pointless and impossible for Bernie to win, so nobody will go out and vote in primary elections, right? Like that is the argument from 2016. And I'm not saying that's...
This is just more cope. Like the fact that they showed the pledged superdelegates early in the race was done to, I don't know if that's what he's saying here, but we'll see what he says. Hang on. All elite memes with $10. Notice how the topic started as a critique on lefties for something they obviously do more, then quickly turned into more liberal critique and rehashing 2016. It happens all the time to handicap libs. Yeah.
Bernie to win, so nobody will go out and vote in primary elections, right? Like that is the argument from 2016. And I'm not saying that that's unfair. Like it was the way it worked before that, but it did work against them significantly. And it does show like some level of institutional buy-in for Hillary and against him, effectively against him, if not actually against him, but for Hillary.
Supporters thought that he still had a chance, and that chance completely evaporated on March 1st of 2016. And so, did they demonstrate favoritism behind the scenes? Like, yes, but how did that prevent Bernie from winning? Like, how did that give Hillary an advantage during that primary?
Well, I don't think that you heard any contradiction what we said with that. I mean, I'm not taking the view that the DNC was the but-for cause of Bernie losing in 2016.
It was not. He was going to lose that no matter what, unfortunately. Kind of, but He was always going to lose no matter how much better his rhetoric was. Unless, he was always going to lose as Bernie Sanders. If he was a totally different human who's capable of throwing elbows and being like an actual, like, willing to set the world on fire, willing to...
He did throw elbows, bro. He was so adversarial. He was throwing elbows the whole fucking time. What are we talking about? He was too nice. Bernie was too nice, and that's why he lost in 2016. Bernie was too adversarial. That's why he lost in 2016.
Set the entire establishment Democratic Party on fire to win, like Trump was. He's got a shot. I think he's got an outside shot there. But you have to throw elbows. You have to constantly talk Hillary Clinton. You have to like be ready to burn the whole thing down. And realistically, I don't think it was even the wrong choice for him not to do that because of what an outside shot it was. He's not the kind of narcissist. Like if he was that kind of person, you actually wouldn't want him to be the president. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're that kind of person who's willing to burn that whole party down, burn that whole movement down to aggrandize yourself, to be the guy in charge, then you're not a good person. You shouldn't even be winning. But I don't think it was, like, totally
16,
impossible.
But all that's being expressed, and I think that you just acknowledge, is the DNC did favor Hillary Clinton. And I think it's...
You want to see some interesting numbers? How about this? 1 in 5 Trump voters, 1 out of 5 Trump voters, 2024 Trump voters, think that he should be impeached. That's a lot. That is a lot. Another really kind of interesting number here. Among non-voters in 2024, again, I think Trump had a significant advantage with non-voters in 2024. I think they favored him like 55 to 45 or thereabouts. And among non-voters in 2024, 53% support him being impeached versus 25% who don't. That's kind of a big deal. A plurality of white people. This is kind of shocking. A plurality of white people, 49% to 45%, think that Donald Trump should be impeached. The demographics that are still sticking with Trump and don't want him to be impeached are Republicans, Trump 2024 voters, and ages 65 plus. Every other demographic on this list here, either a plurality or a majority want him impeached. Well, those are some interesting numbers.
Strains credulity to think that
okay, thank you,
favoritism
Matt.
started whatever date you were suggesting. The favoritism, I think, is just based on who Bernie is, and it predates Super Tuesday. Unless you're saying like, oh, only after when those emails happened, that's when the preference developed. No,
I'm saying you can have an internal preference and still work for the DNC and just not demonstrate that preference in any kind of material way. And that's fine. What the charter didn't say was like, you can't even have an internal preference for Hillary Clinton if you want to work at the DNC. That's just not possible. I mean, again, you would have to be like a Vulcan and like suppress all your inner preferences. They're not asking people to just like not have an opinion. It's just you weren't allowed to demonstrate that preference in any kind of material way in your capacity as a DNC staffer.
The preference is developed.
Well, they had emails going back to January. And the only emails that came out in terms of like the major tranches that were showing favoritism were all dated after Super Tuesday.
Whether there are emails that like show favoritism after Super Tuesday is different than whether the preference existed before then. You might even say that it's a rational preference to have over Bernie Sanders, that in the same way that like the RNC probably didn't want Trump to win, and there were a lot of institutional forces against Trump in the 2016 primary process. You might even say it's a justified, immune system that the DNC had. I don't know that I agree with that, but I think it's strains credulity to say, oh no, the first time they had a preference for Hillary was after Super Tuesday when she lost.
I wish they'd stop. Like, honestly, Hutch's gaslighting is so counterproductive on every level. Like, it's not good to do this gaslighting.
Oh my gaslighting. You're missing the point. It's a demonstrated preference. They weren't allowed to have a demonstrated preference.
First place. And this lie, it's actually...
And the only time they demonstrated this preference was after fucking Bernie had already effectively lost.
There's a strange parallel to this Ikuno thing, if I think about it. In that, like, actually, I don't even know that every lefty necessarily wants you to not try to protect liberal candidates or something. Like, I think they assume that's going to happen. It's when you tell them it's never happened, it's never going to happen, but it still happens over and over again. I think that's what's really... It's not the only thing.
He once again in this video is incorrectly characterizing what I'm actually saying.
People will still be mad, but it sure hurts when you look at somebody in the face and say, there wasn't even anything working against Bernie in 2016. it kills your credibility. Just don't gaslight. But Pisco's hitting the line just right? Yeah, it's like there were things working against him, but he was probably losing it even if they weren't. I feel like it's pretty obvious he was losing it even if those things weren't working against him. But they were, and we shouldn't have those. Or, you make the argument for why it's a...
We shouldn't have people in a democracy working against, outside the DNC or whatever, whatever institutional advantages she had outside of the DNC. You don't say, okay, we're all going to be neutral. Like everybody with power in the Democratic Party, we're all going to be neutral. We're not going to use our own influence and power as politicians to try to influence the race to go in a direction that we want. If you want to establish that as a rule set, then okay, we have to establish the parameters here, but otherwise, this is just normal politics. And
a thing that makes sense. Yeah, you're just lying to people. Yeah, you're like treating people like they're idiots.
There's nothing wrong with working for the DNC and having an internal preference that she win. But they violated their charter by demonstrating that preference in an official email correspondence. But that doesn't translate to them forcing voters to they didn't brainwash primary.
Which Pisco just said. So you're making up some. This is
No, Pisco was saying it's strange credulity to think that they didn't have the bias before the dated emails that were after Super Tuesday. And my point was it doesn't matter that they had the internal bias. That's not improper. When they hire you to work for the DNC, they're not asking you to turn your opinion off. They're saying as in any work that you do for the DNC, you just can't demonstrate that preference.
Dude, I need to maybe find a way to say things outside of analogy, but it is very much like, when you say Bibi Netanyahu convinced Trump to go to war, do you mean he controlled him with blood magic? No, nobody thinks that. No, it's diplomacy, standard diplomacy that countries engage in all the time. It's just relentless diplomacy only in one direction that's never going to be paid back to the United States. But it's you just do this totally absurd straw man that nobody is actually arguing. Nobody's really saying that. It's so goofy,
Mary
man.
voters. Well, no, I think he was kind of saying that, right?
I totally agree with that. I mean, we just have to be very, like I always say, calibrated and careful about what we're saying. If what we're saying is the DNC had a preference for Hillary Clinton, that's just true. If we have a claim that, well, but for the DNC's interference, Bernie would have won, I'm not convinced of that. I don't think that's true.
I still think Bernie can win 2016, and I have a little strings and crazy conspiracy board down in my basement. So we're still charting out the path, but it's going to happen.
Well, but does anybody here think that
God, that's a perfect segue into the idea that Trump might have won 2020. How do you not segue into Kash Patel announcing that he's actually going to make arrests or going to present evidence that the 2020 election was rigged? You guys see that?
Good luck with that.
Am I the only one who saw that? That's a perfect segue right there.
Good luck with that.
Loses, Hasan will say, you know what? We tried our best, and all's fair and square. We'll come back next time.
I should micro loot it. True.
I'm gonna try again. I don't care.
What if it wasn't fair and square though? This is how much of a smile do you want them to have while they eat a plate of shit? I think if you want them to fully smile, that's never going to happen. You're running a liberal coalition. Nobody will do that. Go over to the Republican side. You got all these servile, spineless pieces of shit over there. Okay? That's more your speed. You can't, because again, I know there will be things that go badly. And
I guess his perspective is that the party, the Democratic Party, should deliberately change the system to favor underdog candidates, I guess is what he's saying. And anything outside of that or less than that would be unfair. And so if you have a race where there's a progressive candidate with lower name recognition and lower institutional support versus a more normie Democrat with more name recognition and more institutional support, we need to adjust the system to address that handicap and level the playing field. So I guess this means politicians with influence are not allowed to make political endorsements. I guess we're not doing that anymore. That's just got to stop. Maybe you don't even report on the results of the race as it's ongoing, So if it looks like one candidate has a really big advantage early on and there's concerns about that tilting the results in future contests. So The media is not allowed to report on like the ongoing delegate count. Okay. I guess we just stop, you know, all Democratic Party candidates moving forward. They just stop taking any contributions whatsoever. And it's all just got to be like self-funded up to like a capped point or something like that. Like you know, he wants these like handicaps, and like that anything less than that is unfair.
If they lose, they should be able to say, well, yeah, this stuff went against us and it's unfair, but we vote McMorrow because she's way better than any Republican that could possibly run. You didn't see that? Yeah, he announced that. I think he announced that. At least I've seen it a couple times. What's up, Kozer? I've got a clip of yours, Kozer, in the chamber here. We'll see. What did I have that?
I'm getting a revolt in my chat. They no longer want to see the penguin. All right, you know what? Listen. I agree to your terms. We're putting a complete and total moratorium on reacting to JSTLK videos moving forward.